Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 256. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V.
How's it going, Terry?
I'm going to say it's going pretty darn well.
It is. You just got back from Kansas.
Again.
How many times can one person go to Kansas and not get sick of it?
I
mean, you're going to the best city in Kansas, so I suppose.
Some people are going to argue with you. I mean, they know disc golf. I think they even have billboards that claim it in Emporia, but some would argue Kansas City is a hot place to be when it talks about disc golf.
You could make that argument, but it's hard to argue with the city that has the largest disc golf tournament, practically, player-wise, and home of Dynamic Disc, and the Match Play Championships, and the Junior World Championships. It's hard to make that argument that they're not the hotbed of disc golf action in Kansas.
Yes, that should be their new tagline. We are the hotbed of disc golf action in Kansas. Well, as you said, I just got back from the Junior World Championships, that event taking place for 3 consecutive years as it was initially broke off from the Amateur Worlds a few years ago. So for 2018, 19, and 20, it is being hosted in Emporia, Kansas. And we're going to catch up with tournament director Doug Bjerkaas literally in just a few minutes. We're going to skip any Dynamite action. He's got to prep for vacation. And I told them that we may have a jam-packed show anyway. We're going to open with Doug in a few moments. And then I did talk to Jessica Weiss along with Double G, Garrett Gerthy, this weekend. In fact, I watched Garrett's final round as that unfolded at the Silver Cup, which took place here in Wisconsin. And I said, we'd love to have you guys on the show. I know we invited you a few weeks ago, and it didn't work out time-wise. And then once they realized there's still yet an hour ahead of us here tonight, they said, well, we've got to get settled in, our camping and all that situation. And if we have Wi-Fi and if we're up, we will try and join you after we talk with Doug. So a little less confirmed, I would say, than what we thought. We had Paige last week, and Paige wasn't able to join us. She apologizes when I did talk to her the next day. She goes, I was completely wiped. I zonked out on the couch. Again, her and I had exchanged a few messages, so she apologizes, but she knows she's got an open line, and she can call in anytime she wants. I think she's probably on a plane right now. Maybe she's landed in Finland, but either way, we'll catch up with her another time, I'm sure, as she's also welcome anytime. So that's what we have going on. So like I said, tonight we'll for sure immediately recap Junior Worlds. We'll talk a little bit about Silver Cup, which I was able to be a small part of, at least on the final day. Gary to the O and Jeff were out there doing some filming for the weekend for the Disc Golf Guy channel. And then we have to follow up on what I was calling out last week. I didn't see any European Open teasers or footage, and I feel like the very next day there was a teaser that then jumped around Facebook quite a bit. So maybe they were just waiting for that prime time. But of course, President's Cup getting started actually sometime in the next few hours. And then the day after that, we'll have the European Open get started as well. So, yeah, fair to say there's plenty of action going on. And it's warm in the Midwest.
It really is warm. I was actually just scrolling through my normal Facebook feed, and this just popped up that heat index today in some places was up there over 100. It was toasty, and it's going to be even hotter, I believe, tomorrow. So
and possibly even Friday.
Possibly on Friday. Friday is supposed to be the hottest day of our week, which I'm frustrated on a couple levels because on a personal level, I did a bunch of lawn work. I over-nitrogened my lawn to get rid of a bunch of clover, and I want to re-seed a bunch of my grass, but there's no way I'm doing it in this heat because I can't imagine the amount of water I'd have to constantly put on in order for everything not to dry out. So I have to wait, and right now my lawn just looks burnt out. Well, little problems like that. So it's, and honestly, it's not pleasant to be outside. My kids, they normally go to this outdoor camps, and they're kind of being forced indoors with just the massive amount of heat. So where normally they come home completely wiped. They've just, they're inside playing, but it's not quite the same. They're not that same, just absolutely wiped out. So now I'm having to deal with them afterwards and play with them, and that's a bunch of BS, let me tell you.
I know. Kids should be out doing their own thing.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, we'll talk later about my challenges of volunteering at the Girl Scouts. Jeez. it's more work than it might be worth. But
Yeah.
that's another story for the after show, which will have a sponsor in Mrs. Schultz here tonight. But
Very
we'll
nice.
get to that later.
And a special shout out to all of our Smashies at the $10 level. You should have gotten your T-shirt for this quarter. I saw a couple of guys out on the board. Tim, I think, was saying that he was sporting his, and I think Andrew as well. It is it's a blue shirt, like very reminiscent of a specific superhero, with a red Smashbox logo right in the middle, very reminiscent of that same superhero. So it's a blue and red Superman theme. Kind of.
I hope we don't get sued for all of that trademark and patent infringement here tonight.
It's not the Superman S, it's the Smashbox S. It's just
one and the same.
It's a color. I mean, you are a Superman if you wear that. You're a super fan, super patron, super friend of ours.
Well, I think Johnny's going to dial up Doug Bjerkaas, who we're going to get on the call, talk a little bit about what we saw at the Junior Worlds this year, including some dominant performances that went down. And there's even a special video that I know was recently released, an In the Mind with Zach Arlinghouse. I did take a few moments to watch that today, and you can watch his dominant performance if you feel so inclined as well. That's out there on the Dynamic Disc page as well. So coming in, I see him in our Disc Baron digital green room, none other than Super TD, Super Smashy, Doug Bjerkaas. How are we doing tonight, Doug?
Good. Hey, it's good to be back on your show. It's always good to hang out and talk with you guys. Although my favorite place to talk to you guys is in Emporia when you're both there. So we'll settle for this.
This will be the best podcast you're on all year.
You see what he did there.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. And I've said, I think last week, sometimes even my daughters, who usually can't keep track of me, they're like, where are you this week? I'm like, nope, this year I'm spending 2 separate weeks in Peoria and 2 separate weeks in Emporia. So understandably, that becomes a little bit of a mouthful when you're trying to explain where you're going. But glad to be there again. That was the second of 3 years that you guys are hosting the Junior Worlds. Compare and contrast, maybe year 1 to year 2. You're used to putting on big events, but specifically for the Junior Worlds, compare 2018 to 2019.
Well, the numbers were pretty similar. We had 194 players in 18, and we had 207 players this year. So we did increase by 14 players, which, I think we might have thought at the beginning that those numbers would increase more rapidly. But, as we sat back and thought about it, it is, for a couple guys to jump in their car and go to the GBO is one thing, but for mom, dad, and little brother and everybody to jump in a car or fly or, however they're going to get to Emporia, it is an expensive trip. And, I think back to when my daughter was playing Junior Worlds, we actually never went with her. My mother took Paige to her Junior World Championship. So, we're happy to see the growth, and we just love hearing people say, man, we can't wait to be back. We can't wait to be back. And I think there were several similarities. Some of the off-course activities were the same for both years, but, last year we did like a rodeo night. That wasn't really well attended, so we changed that to a go-kart and mini golf night. That was very well attended. So some of the off-course things we've kind of tweaked. And I think next year, in the third iteration, I think we really want to look at the courses that the divisions are playing and maybe switch those up a little bit. I think we may have had some cases where some of the divisions were maybe not as challenged as well as they could have been, or they were over challenged. And with juniors, it's tough because if you get, say, almost 60 kids playing in MJ15, those top 10 MJ15s have a talent level that is far superior to the bottom 10 MJ15s, and you have to find a balance to where they can all compete. But I've kind of rambled away from your question, Terry. Sorry about that.
No, and that's a very valid point, though, is it's so tough, and that's a challenge at AM Worlds. That can even be a challenge at our Pro Worlds when you're talking about having everyone from senior grandmasters and legends all the way to the top of the top, professional MPO, and those were some of the considerations when dividing up the World Championships into different, we'll say, more specific factions. I think that was one of the big considerations is how do you appropriately challenge such a diverse pool of players? And so this year there was actually a slight reduction, if I recall, in 1 or 2 of just the age brackets. Can you talk about that a little bit or what that meant?
Yeah. So in our first iteration in 18, we had 2 under 6 divisions, both junior girls and just regular juniors. And the PDGA made a decision that in major championships that those divisions would not be offered. And actually, there was quite a bit of conversation after that decision was made, the pros and the cons of it. I actually, when I consider all things, I think it was the right decision for the PDGA to make. But yeah, we certainly did not have those divisions. And then ironically, FJ08 had no participants. So in our box of trophies to never see the light, we have some FJ08 hardware that who knows what we'll do with that. But
I can totally understand that. There's a long day, and a lot of the really young divisions in that heat played either 9 holes or just 18 holes in a day, and I know the schedule kind of allowed for all of those things. Is there a certain amount of holes or just a certain amount of golf in general that you guys or the PDGA is trying to help dictate or oversee, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the 8s and the 10s, we are required to keep them at 18 holes a day. And so what we've done is they can only play 18 holes. And it turns out they really only play 1 round of 18 holes when they play Peter Pan one day during the week. But what we've done is we give them a morning round at a 9-hole course and then another afternoon round on a 9-hole course. Those 2 get combined, which means we're in the PDGA tournament manager. We're building a lot of things like, Hammond, then Flint Hills, then Hammond. And
yeah.
Most of the parents, now we do have a couple parents who are like, wow, my kid should be playing 18 holes in a row. But most of the parents love that because you get an 8-year-old in the Emporia heat. I heard Johnny talking about heat index earlier. It wasn't cool and balmy. It wasn't, really, it was hot all week. And having those young kids have to do 9 and then get, a 2.5-hour break and then play another 9, we think is absolutely the best thing to do.
Do you, going back just a moment, do you feel like the GBO is so huge and wildly successful and tremendously attended that if it wasn't as amazing as it was, that maybe some people would be more inclined to show up for like a Junior Worlds? As in, do you feel like that maybe steals a little excitement and a little thunder earlier on in the year?
Oh, I don't think so, Terry. In fact, one of the coolest comments I heard during the week was as kids were getting announced at the country club, I heard one kid say to another, "Oh my gosh, this is like Paul Macbeth at the GBO." Okay. So they're able to connect some things, and they've, our courses have seen a lot of video coverage. People know Jones East, Jones West, Peter Pan, Emporia Country Club, and I think that familiarity and that exposure we get in April absolutely helps. And it's a different crowd. There are not too many GBO participants that are showing up with their young kids to hang out in Emporia for the week.
Okay. Now, this is not normally my type of question, but any idea what the exact return rate was if you had 197 and then, 204 or 217, whatever that number was? Do you have any idea of exactly how many were returners?
I don't. That would be easy for me to find out, and I could certainly get back to you on that. But I would guess it's going to be somewhere around 100 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I saw a lot of familiar faces. We see people coming back from multiple championships. We see a few of our players not win in one division, move up a division, and then win. I mean, you don't see that happen too often. That's for sure.
No, you don't. You don't. You also don't see 3 sisters show up and take 2 titles in 1 second.
Yes.
I mean, there's some really good storylines out there. When we first started talking about this, we had initially approached the PDGA about running a United States Junior Disc Golf Championship, very similar to what ended up happening in Vermont, and really, really exciting to see what those guys are doing. But the PDGA came back to us and countered and said, "What about doing a junior-only Worlds?" And then we said, well, that sounds good. And that's one of the reasons why we got the 3-year deal, was because we had kind of come up with the idea together. And then to really make it happen, we felt like to go to our parks and get changes made to the courses and things, to have a 3-year commitment would be a lot easier than just a 1-year commitment. But when we did that, I started, looking into past Junior Worlds, and really the only thing I knew about Junior Worlds is that my kid had gone to it. Both my kids had gone to it, and it was combined with Amateur Worlds. And in fact, one year in Kansas City, it was all the worlds together, and that it was just a good time. But I started doing some research, and man, some of the greats in our games got their start at Junior World Disc Golf Championships. I mean, Nate and Val, they're both Junior World Champions.
Ulibarri?
What's that?
I think didn't Paul say he
No, did Paul win an amateur world championship?
He won an amateur world championship.
I don't know if he ever won junior.
No, I don't think he ever won, but I think he competed in a junior.
That's quite possible.
No,
yeah.
So you're talking that to me is the most fascinating. Well, of course, 2010 Junior Worlds, which was part of that Mid-Ohio deal.
Yep.
You have three who now are household names win world titles, one being Paige, my daughter, Rick Saki won one, and Seppu Payo won one. So, I mean, you look back, and that's what I look at when I look at our list of champions. I'm going, man, I wonder if Zach Arlinghouse or, Isaiah Esquivel or Wyatt Mahoney or,
Brown.
Caden Bell, who's going to be that next great name. But you mentioned Paul McBeth. The most fascinating, if I could have been there, man, it would have been exciting. But it was 05 or 06 in Flagstaff. And the divisions were a little different. But in the under 16 division that year, a guy named Devin Owens won, and everyone knows who Devin is. In fourth place, a guy named Paul Ulibarri placed. In sixth place, James Conrad. And I think in eighth or ninth place, arguably one of the best players of all time, Paul McBeth, finished. So if you think about that Junior Worlds in Flagstaff, I think it was under 16 because they did different divisions back then, but that's what excites me as I think about Junior Worlds is as we look at these results, who's going to be the next group of trailblazers like those four guys are? I mean, that had to have been exciting.
Well, then back then it was juniors, boys 2 through 4, whatever. Junior boys 4, David Wiggins won, who throws a country mile.
Yep.
It's kind of amazing, some of the guys in here that
Nate
have.
Nate Sexton won a junior title.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I started playing when I was about 30, and maybe the only way I would have a world title is if somehow I got a fake ID and tried to play juniors back then, but that didn't work.
I don't know. They might have beat you then.
Well, yeah, now you need a fake ID to play an older division if you want a chance.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's been incredible to see, and in fact, I think just last night, or a few days ago, I made a post about attending the Worlds, and then I started thinking again about the World Championships that I've been to. I was at that 2005 Amateur World Championships, and that was really the first year for me. I was at a Worlds that I was working. In that time, it was with the PDGA under the PDGA Marshall program, which was really just getting kicked off. And I had attended 5 or 6 or 8 Worlds before that in various playing capacities, but to then attend that Flagstaff Worlds in a working capacity and to see all those names, like you said, it was just an incredible experience back then. I think when I left Emporia, and I know I just corrected myself online, and now I have to double check myself. I think when I left Emporia, that was something like my 35th Worlds that I've attended.
37, I thought you said.
Yeah, that was wrong. I think it was 35th.
Okay.
But a lot of these World Championships, I can think back to a memory for literally every single one. There's at least one, if not more, standout moments, and I think that's exactly what you're speaking of. There's so many memories and then future champions and future, world's best that are all created, that sometimes get their start at that event.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see the numbers increase too. I mean, to have 200 plus players, where, I think in our first junior worlds, our first unofficial junior worlds was Am Worlds in, I believe, 13. And we might have had 50 juniors, and to see 4 times that many playing is pretty impressive. And I think that's a testament to our sport growing. And I think one of the important things that needs to grow for our sport to grow as a whole is more kids playing, and more kids playing in organized, sanctioned events. And it's good to see kids competing and battling and earning enough points so that they can get to Junior Worlds.
Well, and then one of the things that can also adds on to making the Emporia trip so special, last year it was the same, and this year I feel like it was ramped up even just a notch more. The names that are there to assist in a either official or unofficial capacity. I think about Chris Clemens. I think about Jordan Castro. Of course, your daughter Paige and Grady. Paige Pierce was there. I think about all of those players, and then local resident in EMAC, and all of the players that were there that also add to how special this event is for these kids. What were some of the conversations, if any, that you had with some of these players, even leading up to the event?
Oh, we have always encouraged, our team members in particular to come to the event. We've also, reached out to other professionals to also be there. You missed one who surprised me to show up, and he was there for caddy duty. But Paul Ulibarri was at the event caddying for a junior girl in the 10 division, I think, who
Olivia.
I think finished second.
Yes, wow. Olivia, who was there competing last year.
Yep. So, we love it. And it's not just, like I said, it's not just the DD players. Hannah Leatherman, former U.S. women's champion, her and Dustin, her husband, always always TD one of our courses. And it's the kids love that. The kids, a lot of these folks, they follow disc golf through things like this, the podcast and, YouTube videos and coverage. And then to actually see people, I saw kids that were starstruck, and that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see them get all amped up over, that's Paige Pierce. Oh my gosh, that's Paige Pierce. And that's pretty cool.
Or how many times you're like, oh my gosh, Robert's hair is as amazing as it looks on TV. I didn't hear that, but I'm sure somebody could say that.
No.
So the red carpet is truly rolled out for them. Like you said, there's all these experiences, custom stamping a disc, having the zoo night, having the go-kart night. There's always mini golf going on over at the Bourbon Cowboy. That seemed like kind of an open-ended thing, as it is for GBO week. It really, the focus and the spotlight is solely placed on them. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages to the PDGA and organizations now splitting up the worlds. You lose a little bit of that everyone's together, but the flip side of that same coin as well, the spotlight is on a lot less people, but yet more direct. Is that a good way to put it?
Oh, absolutely. The stars of this show are juniors. I mean, and that's the way it should be. I'm all in favor of combining future worlds and putting different groups together and so on and so forth. But I'd be hard pressed to find a good reason though to combine juniors in with another world championship. It's a different deal. And it's really nice. When I focus on off-course activities during GBO week, it's pretty easy to think about what adults would want to do and to have some fun. But, you start mixing in kids' activities and things like that. It takes away a singular focus, which in my opinion then takes away from the effectiveness of what you're trying to do.
So I'll be interested to hear your response as I was sitting on the 18th green next to Rusco, as the champions were starting to get crowned during that final day. And I looked at him and I said, well, will you guys continue to bid for this? And so I guess you being the tournament director, I'd ask you, what's next? Do you continue to bid to host this event? And if so, do you like the multiple year agreement, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Hey, first and foremost, I'm a big advocate for change. Change is good. Folks that don't like change tend to not be very successful. With that being said, though, we have every intention to continue trying to host Junior Worlds. One concern we have is we don't want it to get in the way of us potentially maybe hosting a U.S. Women's one year, or hosting Tim Solinsky, or a Masters Worlds, or the new MAFA1 World Championships. I want to make sure going forward, and we have talked very candidly with the PDGA, and we have an outstanding relationship with those guys, and are super happy that we do. But we want to make sure that we're not kind of pigeonholing ourselves into only running Junior World Disc Golf Championships. We still want to do some other cool things. I think there's a lot of people that want an opportunity to come to Emporia to experience disc golf, and it's it would be a shame to limit that to just the GBO and to Junior Worlds.
Yeah, very true. And Johnny mentioned as we were opening that having the match play championships there, and everything else that you guys do throughout the year. Maybe switching it up is going to always keep things fresh, and not necessarily just relying on one player base, but having a bunch of different player bases come through, or big tournaments. Now, the one thing you have to do is work not quite as hard. I think the PDGA has been quoted as saying, it's gravy when we come here. They have everything under control. I think maybe you guys could scale back on how hard you work, make the PDGA reps work a little harder.
Well, particularly Michael Downs.
Yes.
Mike, I hope you're watching. No, we had Sean Sinclair out there, Todd Lyon, Joe was out there for the last couple days. Those guys are extremely helpful, and one of the things that we think of is that if those guys come to Emporia and say it's gravy, and that they don't have to put out near the fires they put out at other events, that just tells me that maybe when they're sitting around that boardroom looking at these bids, they'll go, maybe we should go back to Emporia, or maybe we should go to Emporia for a women's event, or to Emporia for another Pro Worlds or whatever it might be. So,
yeah, and again, that's nothing but a compliment and a testament to how you guys have all of your ducks in a row, and things they run so smoothly while you're there, and it seems like there's no problems, and if there ever are, they're usually fixed or taken care of, and most people don't even know about them unless you're way deep on the inside. In that same light, talk a little bit about the effort from inside the warehouse all the way to people that travel thousands of miles to help. Talk about the collective effort that it takes when you're putting on an event such as the Junior Worlds.
Oh, hey, I am the smallest piece of the puzzle. That is absolutely the case. From the course TDs that come in, when you have, Hannah and Dustin Leatherman, who have run, dozens of junior events, come in and they're a course TD. When you have Matt Lloyd and Bear from Arkansas, and Steve-O, who just won the TD of the Year award. Steve-O and Brad come up from Texas. Ray Woodruff and Kyle Harrigan from Denver. Ray, of course, runs the RMWDGC, which is a very similar event that's focused towards one specific group. It's just really easy when you have guys at courses that have run events themselves. They can solve problems really, really easy. You talk about our warehouse staff, having the warehouse set up and ready for all those kids to come through. The idea was presented that maybe we should let each kid sit in the Disc Golf Answer Man studio and get a picture taken. And that was a huge hit. That was kind of a new deal. And we had to coordinate that and have different employees help make that a reality. The retail store. Our media crew, and you guys know Bobby and Danny and Anthony and those guys. I'm a little concerned that Danny's mustache may have scared some of the kids, but other than that, those guys just kill it. It really does take an organization that's interested in being the best that we can at running events, not just at distributing discs and coming up with great apparel and disc golf equipment, but we really pride ourselves on events that people will talk about and say, hey, I want to come back to that event.
Well,
Terry, you've TD'd. Players vote with their feet. And if they keep signing up for your events, you're doing something right. If they stop signing up for your events, you might look in the mirror and ask yourself if you should be a TD.
Yeah, well, and seeing all of those efforts, and like a GBO week, I know the kind of energy and effort that Anthony and Danny and Bobby, just to name three gentlemen on the media side, like you're done, you get done with a round, and we're even the four of us, so to speak, are coordinating. Okay, well, we're done with the golf at these 2 or 3 courses. We got some action from there. Now there's a zoo night. Now there's a go-kart night. Plus there's bowling going on. And then right after that is the roller skating. And just trying to coordinate, and the block party and all of those things. There's something happening, and you really want to share what's happening with the world. So even the media side is running around just to cover all of the action that's going on is quite an effort that those guys, and of course, hats off as always to Bobby for being that fearless coordinator.
During tournament weeks, Bobby or I are usually the last people to leave the warehouse,
mm-hmm.
and typically, if I'm overseeing water at the beginning of the day each day to make sure our guys are getting water out on the courses, the first person to roll into the parking lot each morning when I'm there is usually Bobby as well. So, I mean, yeah, he is a hard working, cool daddy, slick breeze kind of guy.
So this is probably a really tough one to answer because I doubt anyone's thought about the actual, we'll say, I don't know, the economics, not the economics, the actual keeping track of it. But any idea how many water jugs, how many coolers, 5-gallon coolers, how many times those were filled, or how much water do you guys think you provide in that week? Any idea?
Well, first and foremost, in July in Emporia, a 5-gallon water cooler would be a very junior varsity move by a TD. You want the 10-gallon cooler. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
But we had about 40 coolers that were in rotation, and depending on the day, we put them out in pairs, which really helps. A full one underneath an empty one, and our TDs stayed on top of keeping an eye on those. So I would say on an average day, we were 20-ish, 10-gallon coolers. However, a little awesomeness occurred in Emporia, where Emporia installed water fountains at each of our courses that have bottle filler stations where it's not just, a spigot where you put your mouth down on it, but there's these bottle filler stations. And if you run them for about 5 seconds, the water's ice cold. So we noticed actually less water we needed to put out on the course this year, but we think a lot of that is hole 1 at Hammond has one, hole 9 at Jones East has one, hole 10 at Jones West has one. I mean, Peter Pan has one, and those water fountains make a huge difference, especially when the water's cold. Well,
and someone told me years ago that Emporia is home of the best tap water in the country. Does that sound like a claim that can be made?
It doesn't just sound like one; it is one, Terry. They now it wasn't this past year, but
what? Who edged you out? Who in the world took that title?
Well, I'll tell you who it wasn't. No, that'll get me into trouble. Anyhow,
you're saying in Michigan they didn't win that in Flint. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, so for any of my friends in Lubbock, Texas, you know what I'm talking about. But anyhow, I think 4 or 5 years ago, we won the best tasting tap water in the United States, and we always pride ourselves on that. In fact, during our block parties, there's usually some water spigots set up that have the various awards that we've won. So it's the best craft water in the country.
Wow. It's the way that when you're there, we always hype and talk about the feelings you get and the vibes you get when you pull into Emporia. They know disc golf. They embrace us. All of those really good feelings that go along with it. And Junior Worlds it's the same stuff. It just isn't quite the numbers of people because of who our player base is at that point. But it's interesting to think about still an economic impact if we're kind of going to get technical about it, because unlike the GBO week, we may have, we'll say, 1,600 competitors. There might be a caddy or two, and there might be a husband or a wife that tag along. But when you have a Junior Worlds, you for sure have the competitor, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 brothers and sisters, and then 1 or 2 parents. Like, their entourage, they roll so much deeper than we do. So it's still quite an economic impact.
Oh, yeah. And then there's aunts and uncles and grandparents, too. We saw all kinds of portions and parts of family trees out there. So it was, it's a huge economic impact. And I tell you, one thing that it's done is in fact, we're working on another 9-hole course in Emporia right now. I think for so long our focus was on championship level courses that would help support the GBO. And I mean, I don't want to, well, I will say this. You're not going to take a first-time disc golfer to the country club and expect them to go home going, I am loving disc golf. Mm-hmm. But if you take them to a Hammond Park or something like that, these 9-hole courses we've been working on, Flint Hills Technical College, Hammond Park, we're working on one at Soden's Grove. They're the courses that have people on them all day, every day. And I think to grow disc golf, we need to be careful not just to work on those big courses, but on those small courses as well. And it's cool to see our community get behind that now, and they're starting to see the value and not just, well, is this course going to be a GBO course? Well, no, but it's going to really help grow disc golf, and that's been a cool deal.
I'm surprised you could find enough green space for another 9-hole course. Every time we turn a corner in Emporia, you can just spot a basket. It doesn't seem to matter where we are in that city.
Yeah, someone was here this week and they went, "Your RV park has a 5-hole course." I'm like, if it had room for more, there'd be more. But
yeah, well, Johnny V was saying the exact same sentiment last week. That's exactly what we need. Is yes, of course, we want more championship caliber golf to be played, but having those starter courses are definitely always in need as well. Now, and to speak to what you're saying about the RV park, I apologize. I forget who it was talking to me. They said they got an Airbnb and they were looking at it online, and then when they showed up, there was a portable basket in their backyard, and I think it was a woman. I don't think she's an avid player, but I don't know through what means or however, it happened, or maybe previous Airbnbers left it behind. But they said, yeah, we showed up and there was actually even a portable basket in our backyard. I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
So, hey, the town has made a big push for Airbnbs about 2 years ago. In fact, we went and spoke at a big town meeting to talk about the importance of Airbnbs as we're running out of hotel rooms. And since then, the number of Airbnbs has just shot up dramatically. And I've heard from our retail store that there's people that walk in and they say, "I need a basket for my Airbnb." And they literally are doing that to provide one more amenity so that someone comes back the next year. And, I've stayed in Airbnbs. Once you have a good relationship with somebody at an Airbnb, you want to keep it. And the folks here in Emporia see that as well. And that's just one thing that will, the return on that portable basket will be seen.
Yeah, we had a great relationship with someone in Arizona for the memorial that we would go to every year. And it is. You just make that relationship and they get a constant booking every year, and it's just it's great.
Yeah, it works out well, and understanding how if there's a community anywhere in the world that understands and embraces disc golf, it's obviously there in Emporia. So it only makes sense for these renters to, like you said, find another amenity or something that'll sway them one way or another. Yep. So dare I ask, I mean, now that you can take I don't know if it's a deep breath or just a quick sigh, but this week is over for you. Where do your efforts go immediately now that Junior Worlds is in the books?
Well, it's funny you asked that. Today I was in Council Grove, which is about 40 minutes from Emporia. They have a beautiful course up there, and they have what looks to be almost 200 hotel rooms, and so we're already thinking what's next for GBO, and so that's being planned. We've got we just had our 6th stadium event in Denver at Mile High Stadium, and this week I'll be making some calls to some other stadiums to talk about next summer's event. So, as you know, with tournaments, you can't just go to sleep for 10 months and then wake up and go, "Oh, I better start planning." So it's a lot of cool events and a lot of different type events. We've got the doubles USAMPC as well as a women's version of the United States Amateur Match Play that are going on over the next few months. That'll culminate in Emporia in September. Denise Cameron and Jackie Morris, 2 DD employees, are running the first ever Emporia Ladies Open in October here in Emporia, which is going to be kind of a smaller scale tournament, but that should be fun as well. So yeah, it's always something.
What was that event called? The Emporia
Ladies Open.
Ladies
I think
Open.
we're going to play ELO music the whole time.
At first I thought you said the Emporia Ladies Memorial Open, and I'm like, you're going to call it the Elmo? And then I said, no, it's the ELO. So yeah, we're just gonna some great 70s music there.
Yeah. Well, and then we got this little thing at the end of October we're working on too. It's not disc golf related, but it involves some disc golfers. So my youngest daughter is getting hitched on October the 25th, and I wish it was as simple as just sending in the sanctioning information on. Trust me, it's not even close to that.
So you, I mean, are you going to at least get like the additional insured from the PDGA for Grady or something? I mean,
that's right.
We should.
Certificate of insurance.
No, we are thinking. Paige was knocking around the idea of doing some sort of fun disc golf event that week. So we may do something disc golf related, but really excited. And boy, Grady is. He's a stand-up guy, a good egg. I like that kid.
I would hope so.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like him, or at least pretend to for a little while.
That's right.
So because we didn't get a chance to catch up with you, we'll touch on it real quickly. The Denver, you guys were there in the stadium. Give everyone kind of the recap on that. And then, like you just mentioned, where is the future of that? Because now that you've been to a few stadiums, where do you see the future of that maybe transitioning or going back there? I don't know.
Well, no, we think it's best to kind of spread that around. So we're looking at other NFL stadiums. We want to continue doing an NFL stadium every summer. Summers make sense because those stadiums are usually available. And so we're looking at a few different markets where that could work. But then we also believe we are going to dip our toe into the water of a second stadium event. Not the NFL, but a college stadium. And we have gotten a ton of people that have mentioned places like Ann Arbor or Ohio State Stadium, some of those places where we don't feel that Emporia State University would be an immediate draw at this point, but at someday maybe they would. But so the conversations are going to start happening there. What's really cool with the NFL stadiums is these folks that work in the rental, I'll call it the rental office at the stadium. They talk to each other and go to conferences together, and it's kind of cool now where, I'll get a call every, couple months from a stadium going, hey, you want to bring your disc golf event to us? And that sure makes negotiating a little better when they come to us first. So
I know it's a stretch, but man, I'd love to see it at Lambeau. That's a tough one, I bet, but that would be fun.
Wisconsin knows disc golf. Green Bay's got some disc golf.
Of course, and Lambeau is gorgeous as far as the stadium with all the renovations they've done. I just think I always just think Lambeau is very sacred ground, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they would take to that. I would hope so. I'd love to see it.
Well, and we think that two things need to happen. One, you need to be in a market where there's a lot of disc golfers, and two, you need to be in a market where a lot of people like the football team. And Green Bay does fit that bill. I might have to bring a bunch of little Minnesota Vikings stickers put them in various places.
Hey, our stadium won't collapse, so you got that going.
You got me there. That's good. So, the Packer, and actually Aaron Rodgers is allegedly a disc golfer, so maybe that would be cool to have him. But I tell you, those stadium events, and Terry, you were at the one in Nashville. To see the looks on people's faces when they're announced over the loudspeaker of the stadium, getting ready to tee off. I mean, you just see these people. I got so many messages after that event. Oh, that was the greatest thing I've ever done. I can't believe we were able to do that. So we want to keep providing that to folks.
Well, yeah, and just to further that exact point, most people will never in their lifetime, for any legal reason, hear their name announced in some of these stadiums over the official PA system. And for that fact alone, it's a really cool and unique opportunity. Whether you love or dislike that particular team that you're going to visit that stadium, just the experience of it, I think is awesome. So I'll be excited to see that continue to travel around. And I think you're right, tapping into the really well-known college stadiums and environment, I think, is also, and as we also all know, disc golf continues to grow and thrive on college campuses as well or nearby. So there's also a direct fit maybe for the locals.
Collegiate event, a collegiate event or something like that. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
There is something special to be on a field with a disc. I meyou and looking up in the stadium, it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, you feel like I'm not really legally supposed to be here, am I? I think, you think about sneaking onto places or how cool it would be to throw at various places. MLB stadiums, without getting too sidetracked, MLB stadiums, are those also on the radar?
Well, Innova has run some great events in San Diego and in Los Angeles. And again, the issue there is that those stadiums are way off limits during baseball season.
Yeah.
And for us in the Midwest, the time for us to do this is going to be during the good weather. So we could go to, Florida or to a Southern California and do a baseball stadium, but it is going to be almost impossible to rent a baseball stadium between April and October.
True.
And it just doesn't fit our model here. And I think Innova's doing a great job with that on the West Coast. And yeah, I think they should continue doing that.
Southern Florida, you could probably do it during the game and no one would notice.
Hey, ouch.
There was a group of 10 guys that wanted to go to a Florida baseball game, and they called the stadium and were like, "Hey, what time's the game start? And they, what time can you be here?" Yeah, small crowds.
Yes.
All right, Doug. Anything that totally open floor? Anything that you need to say or share with us before we let you go here tonight?
No, I tell you guys this all the time. The only thing I want to say is, I'm really appreciative to Dynamic Disc and Latitude and Westside for the support they give all of our events, both Junior Worlds, which is what we started talking about, as well as all of our other events. And then I am really, really appreciative of all the efforts of the media, and to have you come down, Terry, I think really, puts another kind of stamp on the event. And whether you like it or not, you are one of those disc golf celebrities. And I heard kids, "Oh, that's Terry Miller, that's the disc golf guy," and you being willing to come down and do that and hang out in Emporia with us and be part of the event is a big part of why kids are going to come back in 2020.
Well, I appreciate that, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I mean, all the experiences and moments that I get to just witness, make that week so valuable and so precious to me. And there's the winners and there's the champions that will go on, that will be people I'm talking about in a booth 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. And to always know and have that backstory is going to be something that's really special to me. But then even the non-champion moments, the interactions with these players, watching them, how they are with one another, how they are with their parents, how they are with a staff, and what makes them tick, and the things that they enjoy about that week on and off the course. Those are all of the moments that I kind of consume, and I feel are very special. So I extend a thank you back to you guys, all of you and Dynamic Disc, for even thinking to include me. It's been a pleasure the last 2 years, and I'll come down anytime you guys will have me.
Yep, and I'll see you in Denver in a few weeks for Rocky Mountain Women's.
Yes, you will. I'm looking forward to that as well. Everything I just said about how amazing Junior's event is, I feel the same with Ray and Kyle and the crew, and that started as well with you a number of years ago, bringing me out to the Rocky Mountain Women's, and we'll do everything we can to put that on the map as big as we can as well.
Sounds good. Well, hey, you guys keep up the great work, and thanks for all you do, and keep being dynamic.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks a lot, Doug.
I feel like he got a plug in there on us.
At the very end. He just slid that in there. It was very subtle.
We'll take it. We'll take it. One other quick announcement that I would like to make, and Doug will, I didn't send it anywhere or tell anyone yet. One thing I'm going to do is, well, let me back up a moment and say, last year, I put together pieces and then I released them. Bobby and Dynamic put together pieces. They also released them. We liked that they were going out on separate channels and there were slightly different content. We were just kind of trying to spread it as far and wide as we could with the coverage. And then this year, Bobby said, well, let's try something new. What if we kind of go with a more of a news recap / reporter style, which kind of fit into some of the role I was just doing in the most recent Great Lakes Open.
Or Great Lakes Open, sorry.
And so Bobby really said, okay, go, follow along with some of the competition that's going on out there. Let's get a really brief interview out of a competitor out of each of the divisions as best as we can, and then also show some B-roll shots of other players. And so that's really how we tackled it. I don't know if there's a set way or a right or a wrong way right now in terms of this coverage. But that was how we did it this year. So he initially kind of set up the recap each day by saying, there's a lot of activities going on. Hey, Terry went out and checked out the junior boys 15 and 18 and under and so on and so forth. And then he checked in at the zoo. And like I said, Danny and Anthony would do some other stuff.
I watched 2 of them. I enjoyed them. I thought they were good. I didn't get a chance to really take in much more than, I think I saw the very first one. And because Bobby had made a post like, hey, we're doing something different this year. Let me know what you think. And I think I caught one, maybe it was the next day. And
probably, yep.
They were fine.
Yeah.
They were, I thought they were very professional. They were very succinct. They were very on point.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. And I did my best, of course, to try and get a little bit from every division, which is impossible because there are so many different divisions out there. And I think I ended up talking with some representative, I want to say from like 9 out of the 11 divisions over the the 2.5 days I was able to perform that task. And then I was blessed with the task that after Doug, the champions dropped in their final putt, Doug would announce them as the winner. Joe Chargoloff and usually Jeremy Rusko would shake their hands as the champion. And then we'd move in and I would do an interview right away along with Anthony. And I haven't seen all of those released yet. I'm sure they're all going to be as kind of those crowning moments. I know they put together a crowning moments video last year. And then I got an interview with every single one of our champions. And just like I was saying a moment ago, like, it's going to be awesome in 10 or 15 or 30 years to look back at a Hope Brown who, I feel like has a very, very serious career ahead of her if she sticks with disc golf, to look back and watch her crown, the 15 and under, junior girl champion. And
does she have, we can talk about it maybe a little more, does she have plans to move up into the open field? Is she going to go for an 18 and under champion?
I'm trying to remember if I asked that specific question of her. I know I did to a couple of them.
And maybe it's too early for her to even know.
Well, she has 3 junior world titles spanning the years.
Let's run the table.
I mean, she could run the table of many, many years. But it's funny to think about in the big picture, and this was even brought up 15 or 20 years ago with a few outstanding junior women that were coming up in the ranks. As disc golf gets more serious, there is the legitimate thought that I'll use Hope, and I'm going to make up a scenario in that there's a legitimate thought that if Hope were to go pro tomorrow and win $500 at a tournament, would or would that not potentially negatively impact an actual, we'll say, volleyball scholarship? And I don't know that she plays, I'm just making stuff up, or a basketball scholarship, or any kind of athletic scholarship that she may be otherwise eligible for from a collegiate standpoint in a few years. And I know that was... I kind of laughed at that concern 15 years ago, but as disc golf gets bigger and real money can be won, I think that's a legitimate conversation to be had.
It's definitely something that's been talked about for a long, long time, and I'd be curious to know the realities of it. Would it really impact that, or is that just kind of one of our urban legends, so to speak?
And I think back then we didn't know, and I think, of course, almost every college will probably have a slightly different take or an angle on it. Can you win money in one sport, and will that impact you trying to participate at a collegiate level in another? Those are questions or answers I don't have right now. Maybe somebody else out on the board has, kids or themselves have been in that position that they could shed some light on it. But the point is that could be a real conversation piece to have, in the next few years for when these players actually turn pro, and then what that does or doesn't mean for them. So, but it was awesome. So that was kind of the format. The one thing I wanted to quickly touch on and say, during those interviews and then during showing some of the shots, I'll say I tried to grab basically, highlight type shots. Well, I was thinking back, I may have walked up on a group and literally had the opportunity to film them just for literally a few minutes, maybe 6 minutes, and watched every person there throw 1 shot or 2 shots or 6 shots. Some may have been your best, some might not have been. So I feel like it would be fun for me to take every shot that at least has decent camera work, whether it was a great shot or not. I want to put them all together from the week. So we'll say the stuff that maybe hit the editing cutting room floor, I think is an old expression. But the stuff that didn't make it in earlier, I want to put it all together and still release it. So little Timmy, who I only filmed for 10 seconds, maybe didn't throw a great shot, but I still would like to see little Timmy can find himself on YouTube. So that's why I want to still assemble. I'm not going to call it a low light because it's not necessarily that. It's just moments. Hey, here's everybody.
It's a moment.
Yeah, here's a moment. So look for that. I want to get that out as soon as possible, actually. And dare I say, it should be relatively easy. I'm going to just take every single shot from the week and put them together, maybe a little light music behind it, and then announce it. Because I've learned that some of these kids really, really like YouTube. And regardless of what channel it is, to see themselves film doing the thing they love and to have it on YouTube that they could direct others to, or they could cherish themselves forever or show their grandparents, that's kind of the effort that I'm going for. So it won't be a highlight reel. It'll be a footage reel, and it will be released. So look for that in the next couple days. I want to get it out ASAP. So.
Well, let's talk about Junior World's winners.
All right,
for a
let's
little
run
bit.
down
And not
that.
just the winners, but the competitors, the people who maybe didn't quite ascend to the championship level, as we always do. So the 2019 PDGA Junior Disc Golf World Championships presented by Dynamic Discs Tournament Director Doug Bjerkaas, Assistant Tournament Director Jeremy Rusko.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
I know. He throws his name on stuff. Juniors under 18, as we spoke, Zach Arlinghouse just dominated. He is going to be, hands down, a competitor in the MPO field.
Yeah, he already is.
Assuming he sticks with disc golf, as we have to say about all these juniors, for as long as I think we can we can breathe his name. He shot a 61 under par, but 1,007, 1,039, 1,016, 1,043, 987, and 1,035 rated
read
rounds.
those everything but the finals back to me again. I'll do some math.
1,007,
Yep.
1,039, 1,016, 1,043, 987, and then 1,035. They don't have any ratings on the finals.
Oh, so yeah. So he averaged around 10-20 golf, 10-20 something golf for the weekend.
Yeah, that is
Not too bad. Not too
phenomenal. Taking second place, Kevin Kiefer the third. Congratulations, Kevin. Kevin's PDG number is 97115. It's funny looking at some of these PDGA numbers because they're high, and it's a lot of digits for me. Third place, Harper Thompson. Fourth place, Elijah Bickle. Fifth place, Levi Hancock. So congratulations, juniors under 18. They're all boys, but
Zach, who had turned 15
open.
to 16 during that week.
Oh, Zach, really?
Yeah. So
technically...
Yeah, I interviewed him. He played Country Cup, must have been Thursday. I said, you started the day leading Junior Worlds, and you end the day leading Junior Worlds, turn 15 to 16. And, well, it's hard to say he's ecstatic. It's really tough to get a read on him. We'll say outward showing of emotion is not his...
He's got the Calvin Heimberg down.
Yeah, maybe a little less. Yeah, he's a super great kid, of course, but yeah, he's a little quiet and reserved, or maybe just doesn't like cameras, or all of the above. But yeah, he turned 16 during the week, which was pretty cool as well.
Wow. Junior girls under 18, 6 competitors, winning by 8 strokes. Melody Kistruda, I think that's how that's pronounced. PDGA number 5017. With a 50,000 PDGA number and being under 18, she must have been signed up quite a while ago.
So she's part of the Disc Golf Girls. Melody Castrita.
Castrita?
I'm gonna. You have to roll the R's, but I was told that, and I still can't do it.
Yeah.
Castrita. Her and her 2 sisters were there competing. Another one of her sister, as we mentioned, you'll be reading for first place.
Don't spoil it, bro.
And then another one of her sisters took second. So obviously a very solid performance by them. And then I had a great chat with their dad. He was able to film a bunch of their rounds throughout the week, and he couldn't be more happy and more proud, of course, as well. So yes,
congratulations, Melody. She has been a PDGA member since 2011. Taking second place, Kat Murch.
Mm-hmm.
Third place, Kayla Key. And fourth place, Lily Marr. So congratulations to the junior girls under 18. Juniors under 15, 54 competitors. Handily winning this division, Gannon Burr, shooting 59 under par, a 988, 972, 1,027, 1,021, 968, and then 1,010 to wrap it up. He won by 27 strokes over Anthony Anselmo. My bad. Who shot 952, 928, 946, 969, 956, and a 961. So right around that 950 range. Congratulations, Anthony. Third place, Ty Love. Fourth place, Nolan Ramser. Fifth place, Simeon Schultz. One of the Schultz brothers?
One of the many Schultz family in attendance that was there, yes. And Gannon, just a quick shout out from the Quad Cities area. Just a crusher. I think he was the highest rated player there, regardless of division. Actually, he rated 986. He's got 3 or 4 advanced wins already this year at A tiers and such, and just an absolute crusher.
Well, here, let me ask you this, Terry. I'm going to go top 6 because I know Isaiah, Gannon, Anthony, Ty, Nolan, Simeon, and Isaiah. How many of them throw over 400 to 450 feet?
I'm pretty sure all of them do. Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're all crushers for most people.
Yeah.
I know Isaiah can hammer a disc. I think he goes over 500. These kids, I almost said these guys. They're not even guys yet. These boys are, I'm sorry. They're young men. They're adolescents. They are under 15. They are amazing golfers, but they throw a mile.
And Gannon, I've been corrected. I apologize. I was thinking about him and maybe his play and Am Worlds a couple years ago. He's from the Des Moines area, not the Quad Cities, QC, and I don't need any Iowa gang rivalries erupting
Come
here.
on now.
They're brewing.
Oh,
they're always brewing.
Heads.
So Des Moines area, I've been corrected, and I appreciate that.
Junior girls under 15, 12 competitors, as we talked about. Hope C. Brown, just again. She
33.
33 stroke. No, 31,
30,
I believe.
I can't.
29.
35. That's 35 strokes.
15 plus 20. Yeah. So 35 strokes. Doing math live is hard. Hope just shooting 930, 935, 928, 971, 880, and 908. Congratulations, Hope. Second place, Aria, again, Castrita. Third place, Lucy Burks. Fourth place, Lily Ruthen, and fifth place, Sina Talvinsola.
From Finland, and girls play disc golf too, I think is her official hashtag and or login on Instagram. It was a pleasure meeting her and her father, so got a great picture, and she'd introduce herself. And girls play disc golf too, I believe, is her official login.
That's great. Junior under 12, 30 competitors. Colby Sanchez wins this division by 12 strokes, shooting 949, 881, 941, 935, 927. Terry, even juniors under 12, you and I are going to have a hard time competing these days.
Oh, yeah.
Colby Sanchez, congratulations on winning. Second place, Carter Aarons. Third place, Andre Homer. Fourth place, Carver Whitford. And fifth place, Ryan Mulder. Congratulations to all of you. Junior girls under 12. There's that name, Haley Castruda. I'm gonna mess it up every time, so
right.
you can correct me, but I'm gonna mess it up. Her PDGA number is 105127. So she's got to be a relatively newer 2018, so last year. So congratulations.
That was her first event. Yep.
And she wins junior girls under 12, shooting 20 over, winning by 3 strokes, making it competitive. Lost a single stroke in the finals. So she shot an 858, a 790, 780, 856, and an 825, beating Mary Jane Stevens and Virginia Polkinghorn. So congratulations to the girls under 12. Juniors under 10, Wyatt Mahoney shooting 26 under par, besting Uriah Kelly by 7 strokes. Third place, Wilson Graby. I'm going to throw all 3 of them out there. Maybe I'll get close. Fourth place, Danny Runk. Fifth place, Jaden Torres. Junior girls under 10, there were 5 competitors. Zoe Lynn Martinez takes this division down by 15 strokes, shooting a 35 over par. Over Olivia Scott, Lily Schultz, another Schultz.
Yes.
All right. Ava Meyer and Riley Hayes. I love Ava Meyer. What a wonderful little girl. We've followed her for a few years now. She was the youngest competitor couple of years ago at one of the events. I think we went at one of the Am World events we went to. Is that right?
No, you're thinking of a different one, but
Am I?
also a sweetheart.
But yes, I mean, either way, wonderful. Juniors under 8, there were 6 competitors. Caden Bell, congratulations, winning by 4 strokes over Jackson Green, Luke Bowman, Leo Blomers, and I'm just going to rattle off the rest of the field. Levi Smith and Austin Hendricks. Congratulations, boys under 8.
There you go. It was a great battle. So many awesome. I got to see so many of these competitors actually out there throwing and competing, and what they're all doing. I mean, I walked up literally just moments after Caden Bell, and it's on Facebook. He had thrown one in from about 125, maybe 150 feet on a hole, and I mean, he stands like this tall.
Is he the one that said he had the longest putt?
Yeah, and he's got like, as of last September, when I talked to him briefly at an event, he had like 68 distance records to his name technically, and he's just an incredible little fireball. But he had thrown one in, and as I was already walking in that direction, and I heard a yell, and then I saw him running it down, and I'm watching him run and run and run. I'm like, oh my gosh, he just must have thrown that one in. And it was, like we said, 125 feet minimum. His mom or dad, Melissa, I know, has it out on Facebook, so go check it out.
Awesome.
It's just pretty incredible for those guys. It was very, very cool.
No, I believe Ava was the young girl who we ran into at GBO.
Correct.
And
we talked to her there, but you're also thinking of the Ava that we had met and talked to at the 2014 Am Worlds in Michigan. There was a pretty incredible little lady there as well, but slightly different one. So that's what we saw at the Junior Worlds. We can't say it enough. Just congratulations to all of them. Excited to see who will return next year, who's going to go after another title. Maybe they're in a different age bracket. Maybe they're going there for their 3rd consecutive year, or we'll see who are the fresh faces when they come back. Now, we can move into some of the other action that we saw over the weekend. And we know that in Estonia, we talked about someone like Kevin Jones, who was leaving the Great Lakes Open on a plane that very night that it finished, where he finished 2nd to Paul McBeth.
And was having some back issues.
And, he was hopping on a plane and was heading over to Estonia, where we see a number of our players finally kind of all caught up. And some are treating it a little bit like a warm-up event. But looks like Kevin Jones, even if he had back issues, it seemed he put his back into it.
He can do it.
Yes,
Put his back into it. Kevin Jones winning with 27 under par over one Richard I-1 Junior Worlds Wysocki, shooting 26 under par, so a single stick, as Dana likes to say. 3rd place, James Conrad. 4th place, Askari Vikström. 5th place, Lori Lettinen. I'm stopping right there because they only get harder. But ultimately, congratulations to Kevin Jones on this wonderful event. $1,268 you took home. In the Open Women, oh, my scroll, I must have clicked the button. It started like scrolling funky on me. Here we go. Open Women, 9 competitors. Kristen Tatar takes this one down by 5 strokes over Maris Parendi. And 3rd place, Madly Vat, shooting 13 over. And 4th place, Anneli, I had to do it, Togyas. Stopping right there. So congratulations to Kristen Tatar, shooting looks like 954, 958, 961. So all right at her rating, and taking home $441.
That's got to be at least like 500 euros.
Something like that. It probably was like 500 euros on the dot or something along those lines. But Kristen is going to be a force to be reckoned with at the European Open. She's a very strong competitor. I'm excited for the European Open. We'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit more about that in a little bit. But the lead card is Tatar, Paige, Kat, and Evelina. For the lead card, I believe, is what I saw. So that should be really exciting. And that was your Estonia Open 2019, powered by Prodigy Discs.
I did my conversion backwards. It was only like 400 and some euros, but anyway.
Oh, well, whatever. We can get a little closer to home here. The next big event was an A-tier here in Wisconsin, an event Terry and I know very, very well, which you were actually attended the final day. The Silver Cup 19 Pro Advance, presented by Discmania and Roland Ridge. So this is up in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. It used to be called the Manitowoc in the Park. Now it's the Silver Cup. So much fun. Great event. Jim Van Lannen, many of you may know him as Alyssa Van Lannen's father. So ultimately, he has been running this event for many, many years. Winning in the open division was one Double G, Garrett Gerthy, shooting a 37 under par, taking home $1,750, shooting a 1036, a 1042, and a 1057. So all over his rating, which I think is going to be going up soon. Second place, Calvin Heimberg, shooting a 33 under par. Third place, tied Adam Hammes and Kale Leveska. Fifth place, Anthony Barella, tied with Matt Bell. So congratulations to all the competitors there in that field. We're going to move down to the open women. Holly Finley takes us home. Kind of almost a hometown kind of girl. I know she's from the Madison area,
state,
but it's the home state. She's very familiar with these courses. Holly wins this by 2 strokes over Madison Walker, who shot a 3 over par. Ellen Widboom shoots a 7 over par. Holly takes home $575. No conversion needed. It is all U.S. dollars.
And a little bit of redemption for Holly. A few years ago, she was in position to win this event. And ultimately, on the last hole, when she thought she had it wrapped up and had an additional stroke to give, she actually didn't. And
laid it up, I believe.
Yeah, and wasn't able to take it home. She goes into a playoff where she then loses. I believe that was to Paige that year.
Paige Bjerkaas.
Paige Bjerkaas. And so Holly, again, a little bit of redemption on that side, bringing home this event. So congratulations to her.
We got some big names over in the Pro Masters, so I'm just going to quickly go through that. Johnny McRae steps up and shoots a 24 under par, shooting 1,009, 1,021, 1,017. Second place, Adam Olson. Third place, Jonathan Baldwin. Fourth place, Jay Ray. And fifth place, Jay Yeti Redding.
Yeah, some big names, as you said, some world-class athletes competing in that MP40 division. So very impressive to see.
And I'd feel bad if we talk about MP40, we didn't talk about Pro Masters Women 40. So taking this one down, Barrett White shooting 7 over par, followed up by Paige Schultz at 38 over par. So it was a pretty handy victory. Barrett White taking home $400.
And congratulations. Winning stateside is my good buddy, our good buddy, Johnny Rumble. Johnny Rumble famously takes down the Samui Swine Classic in Thailand, then goes to extra holes in Finland at Tuni, and then brings home a win an hour and a half from his house, a little bit closer to home. So congratulations to our good buddy Johnny Rumble taking down MP50. Pretty cool. And one quick follow-up to all of that. There is coverage. Buddies Gary and Jeff were able to cover the round at Roland Ridge on Friday. Then the Super Silver layout on Saturday. They covered that. Throw and catch cam. And then Sunday, I got back just in time from Emporia. So I worked one of the cameras with Gary to cover Sunday's action. So all 3 of those rounds, in fact, Gary was just telling me that they're near completion in terms of being the raw edit. So then it'll be a matter of just getting the right commentary duo to go over the track on top of that. And I believe that Gatekeeper was in town for final round Sunday action on the FPO side. So at some point, I'm sure they're going to get that put together and released as well. So look for all of that to also get released as soon as commentary is laid down.
And if you're in town or in the area, I saw Madison Walker will be appearing at Glide store tomorrow from 4 to 8 p.m. So go out and support Madison. Go check that out. She's doing, I'm sure, a small clinic and maybe a round or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on.
I don't know. I think she's just there to giggle. I don't know.
She'll be there to giggle and tell you what trees are.
Exactly.
Or birds or
which are which.
So
she should do a site like a nature tour and just be a guide to go out. I think some people would be really entertained by that.
If she just play pretend she walked around High Stand Park and literally told you like, oh, this is this type of tree compared to this type of tree, and look at that specific bird up there versus this, and that's a, whatever. I think
it's an idea for you, Madison.
We're here for you. We got it.
You're welcome.
And
you're welcome for that.
For the right amount, we'll live stream it.
Yes. Seth Seidenway, who's a great Smash. He saw him out this weekend in person. So he does exist in real life, not just in Smashbox land. He exists out there. So it's good seeing him and a bunch of other really supportive people. And as always, I've got to extend the thanks. There was a lot of support that we received while I was down in Emporia, and then similarly a lot of support once I arrived in Manitowoc this weekend. So great to see.
Very, very thankful for a lot of that. I'm very disappointed I had to miss Manitowoc. It was my son's 10-year birthday, and it was hard to skip that one. But so ultimately, I was thinking about going up there Sunday, and I didn't realize you were going to be up there. I thought it was just Gary and those guys going to be covering it.
So I'm just a jet setter. Emporia to Manitowoc.
You should have let me know. I might have hitched a ride, and we could have gone up together.
I'm better without you.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
All right. Do we have anything else in terms of? Well, we do. And before I even ask you any further, one of the comments that's come up in the last few days that's kind of hit the airwaves is that Seppo Payu has decided not to compete in this weekend's, or this week's, I should say, President's Cup, and he's not going to be at the European Open. Is that correct?
That is correct. He made a post basically saying that his golf is not where it should be right now, and rather than compete and shoot poorly, I think he played, not the Estonian, but the last event he played, he shot like in the 950s, in the 970s, and it just wasn't of the caliber he was expecting. And there's something, I wouldn't call it a glitch, but something's not right, and he wants to work that out. And he thought better, rather than doing it via competing, he wants to kind of iron out some issues and hopefully be more ready for Worlds, I believe is what he was thinking. So he will not be at the European Open competing for the major.
All right, so we saw that. We briefly talked about Kevin, of course, seems to be all right. Jeremy Collings continued to had some traveling woes. He actually withdrew from the Estonia Open, saying that there was something that just wasn't feeling right, and he didn't want to fight through that, and then not be available for the upcoming event at the European Open. So Big Germ actually had withdrawn or DNF'd, did not finish from the event this weekend. So that was kind of a little bit in shocking news. And then he's had some more, I'll call them travel woes.
Chairman, yeah.
But then and I'm not saying I don't sympathize or empathize. I've made some boneheaded mistakes. We all have travel woes, no matter what you do. I've wondered, though, as I reread his last lengthy post, and I thought, there's a little more prep and a little more detail that could go into some of these things, and maybe a few of these things could be avoided. But I'm not his travel agent or his disc golf agent, so I won't even mention any of them.
He's just, he's hit a rough patch, and ultimately
that maybe he was brought on by himself and poor planning and poor decision making.
Here's what I will say:
absent-mindedness.
I have very, very little sympathy for. Zero sympathy, in fact. I feel for him leaving a laptop on a plane. My boss did the same thing. Had to make a bunch of calls to get a laptop on a.
I did it this year.
You did it this year. It can happen. He left it at the TSA. But either way, he also complained, and this is an IT thing, that, oh my God, everything I've done for the past 4 years is on that laptop.
Ever done, I think he said.
I thought he said something like 2013.
Every design he's ever done. Okay.
But all I keep thinking is, are you effing kidding me? Like,
yes.
Like, and he's not alone, because the young lady who is going to be in Madison tomorrow once messaged me and said, my laptop died and everything, all my pictures I ever had on it were, and I, she thankfully, I think, worked through it. And all I can say is back up. There's free photo backup up in the cloud. If you have a Gmail account, you've got like 20 gig free or 30 gig worth of free storage. Use it out in Google Drive. Just they've got programs that'll automatically sync it for you, so you never even have to think about it. If you have questions, reach out. I can maybe give you a little direction, but just back up your stuff, people. Back it up, back it up.
Yeah, that goes for everyone, myself, everyone included. Have continuous backups, whether they're cloud and or an additional hard drive
or something.
Third, tertiary hard drive, whatever the case is, have backups. But Big Germ is, I think I said this last week, classically trained as a graphic designer. I hold him to a higher standard than I hold Joe Schmo, who only touches their computer once a week and maybe or maybe not puts photos on. Yeah. Big Germ has a background in
graphic design. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a background in computers.
That means you need to back up your stuff.
One would think so, but ultimately, yes. Please make sure to back up all of your stuff. In fact, as you know, there's boxes around my house right now. I have the Pro Tour hard disk setup, their NAS device, their Synology, which has 8 terabytes of data on it. And I am right now reorganizing the data a little bit because the data management wasn't the greatest. But ultimately, I'm taking it and backing it all up to the cloud. And that's because I have a nice big fat gigabit connection. And it takes me way less time than it would take most people to back it up. So
now you're just bragging about
Steve
your big fat.
Has handed that to me. And, come probably next week, I will hand it back off to Terry and he can bring it to wherever, to Idlewild.
I'll leave it in an airport.
Probably. Even though you're not going to an airport, you're driving.
I'll still take
just
one
drop
there.
It off there. So, it's those type of things. Make sure to back up your stuff.
There you go. Quick shout out. Happy birthday, Todd Dodge, Steve's brother.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to him. All right. So enough on that. But Big Germ did follow up today. Congratulations. He said the very first shot that he threw since DNFing from the previous tournament was an ace at hole number 1 at the Beast at the course during practice today. So congrats to you, Big Germ, on that. That's obviously very cool. International ace, especially when you're talking to that distance. That's pretty cool.
That is very far. A little bit more talk about the European Open. You can find more information. I believe it's out at opendiscgolf.com. But there's a little bit of confusion as far as, well, we'll talk about President's Cup as well. But there is going to be some live coverage.
Okay.
And it appears that the FPO live coverage is going to be on the PDGA's Facebook page. So, your typical, probably Steve Hill with a microphone and a stabilizer with the cell phone doing Facebook Live. And then there's a little bit of confusion as far as where the MPO is going to be covered. Innova made a post saying that it's going to be on Spin TV's YouTube page.
Okay.
Which you could post from your phone live stream up to YouTube. I think they're probably mistaken, and it's probably going to be on Spin TV's Facebook page. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are going to go right to the YouTube via like the YouTube Studio app or whatever it is these days. So, but there should be coverage if you tune in. If you're listening to us right now live, 7:45-ish. I think Seth had told us a.m. tomorrow morning. Check Facebook. You'll hopefully see it out there. If you're listening to this first thing in the morning when it releases, our podcast releases at about 6:30 a.m. and you're getting this right about now is when you should be turning it on.
Perfect. So, yeah, just turn off the rest of the podcast.
That's right. And then you can catch up with us later, and we'll tell you how great everyone's shooting. So good luck to all the people at the President's Cup tomorrow. It should be a fun event, as it always is. And
you can also follow along on UDisc Live as well. So,
yeah. And then the same, I'm going to guess that we're going to see something similar at the European Open. Spin TV is doing all the post-production. And they have a crew from overseas coming in for camera work, and that will be put together. I saw Nate Sexton and Jeremy Coling doing commentary for that as well. So we have the European Open on Spin TV. Again, I'm going to guess that you're going to see it out on Facebook Live and maybe Spin TV's YouTube page or maybe Spin TV's Facebook page. I don't know for sure where exactly it's going to be, but my guess is you'll see it there, even though it's not posted anywhere. I'm just going to go on a limb and say that it's going to be there.
Now, does it state anything as to the coverage? I believe it was last year, I was wildly underwhelmed with what they were planning on covering because I felt like there was a real slight on the FPO side.
I would have to assume that FPO is being covered
I'm just wondering, since you have the page up, if it states anywhere, and maybe somebody can update us, or maybe somebody else knows.
So, okay, so here it is posted.
Well, there you go.
All right, I should probably
read it to us, Johnny.
Take one more click down. Tomorrow at July 17th, President's Cup, the epic battle between Team USA and Team Europe will be broadcast via Facebook Live. So it is on the PDGA Facebook page.
Yep.
For FPO, and MPO is going to be on Spin TV's Facebook page. Nailed it. With commentary by Avery Jenkins. Of course, you'll be able to follow the live scores only at udisclive.com, which is funny that they're not doing any metrics. I know they sometimes they'll mix and match that. But so Thursday, the 18th through Sunday, the 21st, the European Open. You can follow a live scoring be provided by UDisc Live, as stated earlier, but there will also be post-produced play-by-play videos released on Spin TV's YouTube channel. It does not say... Oh, it's the play-by-play videos will cover both divisions and all 4 rounds, starting from the featured cards on round 1, followed up by the lead cards from round 2, 3, and the final round. And there will be commentary as confirmed below, and they show an Instagram post of this is actually Nate Sexton.
Yep. Okay.
So that's great.
That was my number one question. I felt like last year there was a post that was made, I'm sure I have it somewhere, that basically said, hey, we're going to give you MPO all 4 rounds, and FPO there might be final round, or something to that notion. And I remember being just wildly disappointed in that decision. And here it looks like they've rectified that, and they state
I would have found it hard to believe I know even a year ago was different with disc golf landscape, but with the amount of spotlight that the FPO players are, I don't want to use the term demanding, but deserving, that one of our majors would not have FPO coverage this year. So
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would have
over
been,
there.
I would have been
Not me.
Absolutely shocked. And I'm actually I'm a little along the same line. I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting second card coverage, and maybe there will be, and it's just not posted here. It's again,
it could be bonus that comes out later that they're not promising yet. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
But yeah, that is kind of surprising as well. And because, to be very clear, this isn't to sound either of us like we're entitled whiners. It's just we've seen a new level of expectations, and we're talking about a major in this very disc golf centric and disc golf rich, climate and atmosphere and place, regionally, to not have more than lead card or featured card is a little bit surprising. I completely agree with that.
And maybe we're a little spoiled with being in the U.S. where we have all these crews. I know for a fact for Worlds we're going to at least get MPO1, MPO2, and FPO1. And I would have to assume there's maybe even one more coverage card in there, but those are the only ones I'm 100% sure on. I don't necessarily know if they've been
our A tiers
yet. Yeah, our Pro Tour A tiers
have
2-card coverage, and there might just not be the resources over in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of crews are out there, if there's availability, so it's hard for me to say. I can honestly just say I'm a little underwhelmed by the lack of at least a second card coverage, because I know there's
So you're calling for it. You want to see a winner come off a second card that doesn't get covered. You're excited about that, aren't you? You want it to happen.
I kind of do. I always do. I mean, it's just, but here's what I know. With UDisc Live, they would peel somebody off.
Maybe.
Assuming they have at least 3 cameras, they would probably peel, a second person off and then feed it in. I can only assume.
And then maybe this is semantics, but is it interesting to note that they call it play-by-play coverage as opposed to post-production? I mean, and again,
I think it's just verbiage.
Yeah, okay.
You're going to get your typical shot-by-shot, as we have come to call it, play-by-play. I think that's just to say it's not a summary style coverage.
Yeah. Again, interesting, just, that terminology, which may be nothing more than a translation
component. It could just be whomever is posting that.
And speaking of majors, also interested to see what we're we're gearing up. Of course, this one's taking place. Then I think about other majors this year, the USDGC, that being, just a few months out. We've been asked, and inquiries have been made as to what's going on there. We have no part of any form of live media plan there whatsoever, live or post. We're uncertain as to what's going on there. I know they have at least a media policy, and they have media partners listed on their website.
I'm looking at it right now, and it says and these. Are you sure these are from this year?
I don't know. I mean, this all I know is it says 2019 USDGC, and then this may or may not be an updated list.
And it does say Jomez Productions, Fulcrum Media, UDisc Live, Spin TV, Entercom Charlotte, the Charlotte Observer, the Herald, Rock Hill Radio, AM, and then some fan stuff. That honestly, and that looks like the list from last year. It's well, I'll say this: it's all the identical people.
Sure.
So whether that's an updated list or not, hard to say. But
I mean, there is a 2019 media policy released.
Sure.
When you click on it.
But that's over in the recent posts area. That's a different form. The way websites work, that's a whole different area. You could update the shell of the website and not necessarily update the entire every page. Now, here's what I'll say about our majors. For MPO, you need a minimum of 2-card coverage. That's what I think. Without that, it doesn't feel like a major to me. And I think that should be a standard coverage. I don't necessarily think I'd love to see live coverage by somebody, and I'm glad that I can only assume that Fulcrum's going to be back for USDGC.
Sure.
I know Innova loved the coverage last year, so props to them, and I hope they do a knockout job. But I do feel like you need at least 2 cards of post-production, first and second card. And I know if it's Jomez, hopefully they can, maybe they'll get both cards. I know they've done 2 cards in the past, so that could be super cool with that. So I'm a little disappointed that the European Open is only getting 1 card of coverage, at least appearingly so.
Yep.
That we've been notified of. I hope I'm wrong. And then, gosh, you've got European Open and USDGC Worlds. Obviously, as I said, there'll be at least 2 cards for MPO and 1 for FPO. There might even be more for FPO that I'm not aware of, that I haven't heard of. Because, the 2 big media companies, I know what they're doing. And I don't know necessarily what, a GK Productions, who has been very on the scene, a Gatekeeper, a Tea Time, a PSP, or any of those particular people, what their involvement is with Worlds.
All right.
So,
well,
the more the merrier.
Yeah, and I'll be excited to see as it unfolds. Everything this week, things kick off with the President's Cup, and depending on how the weekend unfolds, we'll see what kind of check-ins that we have, and the timing of it. And that's obviously another consideration, is whether we're live here and what that means for people overseas, or when overseas, may be live or have some kind of a live feed, and what that, does to translates to the time here. I think that's always going to be a number one hurdle and obstacle in terms of when priorities get placed on what events do or don't need to be live.
I was wondering this.
Great.
No, I think so. The European Open is going to have Sexton and Coling do commentary.
Sure.
Do they release another video with different commentary for foreign language?
I'd assume not.
I mean, just seeing as how it's I know
Sure.
a large portion of the viewing audience is in the U.S., but and the way it works is, a lot of people in Finland speak English as a secondary language. But I think it would be kind of cool to have a secondary comment, even if it doesn't come out right away. If you just took the exact same footage and let someone
cue up Toonie, bro. That's exactly what I'm doing. I don't know if you and I have talked about that.
We have.
That is exactly what I'm going to be doing for Toonie coverage. Toonie.
I swear to God, this was not planned. I had no idea.
Toonie is fully edited, with the exception of commentary, and of course, it's now we're really in a kind of a goofy spot. I followed FPO feature and lead card for all 3 rounds of Toonie. All 3 of those rounds, 100% edited. The only thing we're waiting on is commentary, and I had presented the idea to Juha and Gabriel and the rest of the crew, and I said it would be awesome if we have 2, we'll say first English, first language. I don't know what the native first English. I don't know what the term is. 2 people that speak English as their first language have, I don't want to say normal commentary, but to have that as our initial commentary, and then also have a Finnish crew male and female or 2 females or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But have a Finnish crew do the commentary exclusively in Finnish as a secondary release.
I think that's awesome.
And that's exactly what the plan is as of right now.
Yeah.
In fact, I have provided the raw footage to both Finnish and English-speaking people so whenever everyone's ready, they just have to lay it down.
Good idea there.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said whenever they finish.
They finish. But however, to be fair,
great.
A lot of people that would maybe be in assistance of this particular project right now are literally gearing up
for the European
European Open. So it may be a few more days, but Toonie footage on the FPO side is otherwise ready to go, which I'm super excited about. And you will see 2 versions, English and Finnish.
That's phenomenal. And I was just curious because that would make kind of sense to me being overseas the way it is. And I think that would be a really cool cool thing to have.
Yeah, so everyone doesn't have to just rely on
subtitles.
And to be fair, from what I experienced over there, of course, everyone speaks English, but to have it in your
native language,
exactly, I think would be really fun.
It's a nice touch.
Yes,
so
that's what
so
we'll be
cool.
doing.
Anyways, the expectations of majors are rising, and I'm hoping that the European crews. I'm not concerned about the Spin TV stuff because I'm sure the crew they have there, but getting secondary or tertiary cards would be phenomenal, and I don't know if they can or what, but it would be awesome to see.
Well, I am excited to see it all unfold. And Steve Hill from the PDGA, I know, is also over there. He spent quite a bit of time in Paris and some other places. And then
took a vacation.
Did an actual vacation, and then I think tied that right into, he made a post today saying that he's in Helsinki, Finland. So I think he's all geared up, and he'll probably be our easiest conduit to everyone here in the U.S. that's used to maybe going to the PDGA as our resource. So looking forward to it. And in other quick international news, I know Luke Butch and the Samui Swine Classic, I will rave about that forever. But they made a post just on their page the other day. If you're thinking about going to the Samui Swine Classic over there in Thailand, in Koh Samui, there was a post about how inexpensive the flights are at this very moment. So if you want to be committed to going and playing, they already have the date set for the event. I know I'm going, along with a bunch of other U.S. People are going. So if that's something that interests you right now, specifically, the flights are incredibly reasonable. So go out and do some research and educate yourself on what's going on over there. What do you got? Anything else there, Johnny?
No, just kind of perusing the Facebook and social media of the disc golf communities, and I don't really see anything else out there for. Any word from Double G, or is that?
I have not heard from them.
No,
I told them to reach out whenever they get settled in. They not only had to find their camping spot, they also had to be awake and ready to go, and then they also had to have some form of solid internet. And I'm guessing any one of those 3 may have hampered them from joining us. And we were all very clear. And Double G was so gracious this weekend when I saw him, because I know you reached out a few weeks ago and I didn't really get back to you right away. What happens sometimes is I'll be driving and I may quickly see a message, but I'm driving, so I don't focus on it, and then it'll get buried. I said, I know that all too well. And he said, if you need me or us, please reach out to Jessica. She'll usually plays that role while
she
we're
handles
driving.
Management.
She does, because she's the
passenger.
Primary passenger, the exclusive passenger, where he's the exclusive driver. So he apologized that he had missed some messages a few weeks ago. But again, with so many of these people, we can take them anytime. There's always good stories to catch up on with them, and Double G and Jessica can check in anytime when it's available for them. It's kind of interesting to also see and hear when some of our players, obviously from day one, we've kind of been night owls with this particular podcast and being live. So when we check in with players that are like, yeah, I'm not really, that's like shutdown time for me, or I'm reading a book, or vegging out, or calling it a night already by the time you guys go on.
That's a Katrina Allen thing usually.
Yes, Katrina as well. So totally understandable. Well, I think we could call our regular show. We can get into the after show and talk about things disc golf or non-disc golf related. Mm-hmm. There's never any promise when we do such. But I think in terms of actual disc golf business, I think we can conclude things here.
We say that, and then we start the after show with some, assorted BS or whatever we do. And then inevitably, we almost always find one disc golf topic and go off on it. And I think that should have been in the main show.
Oh, really?
Almost always.
That's why I like saying it may be disc golf or it may not.
No, I know, and I'm fine with it. I just think that usually, we'll spend a half hour on a disc golf topic in the after show, and all I think is oh man, that should have been that's the type of meat that should have been in the regular show, because it's usually a subject that we kind of thought of after the fact, I can't believe we missed this, and we're talking about it in the after show. But it's more, to me, it's more primary show stuff.
Well, the good news is our crossover or our following from regular show to after show, there's very little fall off. Is that correct?
I wouldn't. I mean, live. I wouldn't necessarily say that about the podcast.
Okay.
I think some people just prefer the main podcast, and the after show gets. There is some fall off from the after show.
Huh. Okay. I thought we were. It was. I mean, come on. I thought everyone was signed in all night long.
Next week, Disc Golf Nerd. We're going to have a Disc Golf Nerd review next week of the Getaway. He sent it to me today, and I just flat out, with us jumping on with Doug right away, I just flat out forgot that I had it, and so we'll get it next week.
Kidoki. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and call it for the regular show here tonight. We both appreciate Doug Bjerkaas. We always appreciate Doug.
More than anything.
And all of Dynamic Discs, they clearly are pushing so many components of our sport forward and doing such great things. They also are always gracious in supporting us and really believe in both the live and the post-production model, and of course believe so heavily in the media side, which is why you see the team that they've assembled, headed up by Bobby Brown. Such great guys, and then Robert McCall's there just to show off hair. But what they do over there is tremendous, and we appreciate them. They say they appreciate us, which we believe, but we appreciate them even more, and we just can't say that enough.
It's not a competition.
Well,
who appreciates the other more?
It could be.
We could make it that way.
I'm sure they'll run a tournament in Emporia for that. The more appreciation tournament.
Match play event.
If anyone could do it, it will be them from a stadium. So for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with our special guest and Super TD, Doug Bjerkaas, thank you for joining us for podcast 256. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's 256 After Show. Tonight,
we're going to get on pitch at some point in our lives.
Never. Tonight's special shout out, not quite sponsor, but at least shout out, Bernadette Schultz.
Okay. Elaborate. I assume there's a good reason for that.
Well, walking down.
I don't call her Bernie.
I don't know. I'm not going to go there because I don't know.
Thinking.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not like out of the ordinary.
Well,
Bernie
walking
Schultz.
down, I think it was the first day I arrived at Junior Worlds, was technically the second on Thursday. I was following along various groups at Peter Pan Park, which is a mouthful to say a bunch of times. It sounds silly, but at Peter Pan, and at one point, somehow she had brought up something along the lines of the podcast and the Schultz family consuming the podcast. What we need them to do is all to listen on different devices, so there's that many more downloads. But anyway,
we're losing on numbers.
But said that the family's really into it and that they tune in. And we thank you and appreciate you guys so much. And something or other was said about topics, and then a few moments later, when we caught up with the I guess we'd call him the head of the household, the father. She mentioned something about watching and everyone listening to the podcast, and then he went on to then call her out and say, "Oh, did you tell him how you don't care about what movies they recommend?"
That's why we do it in the after show.
That's what I said. And she was a little miffed as to why anybody cares about what we think when it comes to things like movie recommendations and so on and so forth.
I mean, I've given book recommendations. We
really have some hot topics. I guess I'd have to go back and think about some of the most ridiculous topics. They come up every week that we can have in the after show, but I said the exact same thing. The after show, anything goes. Sometimes it's not PG. Sometimes it's way off topic of disc golf. A lot of times it is. I'm okay with that, and I kind of anticipate that it will be. I love the fact that we interact with so many of you via our live chat. We usually continue to ignore our Facebook feed that we push it out to,
and our Twitch viewer,
and our one Twitch viewer.
But they're not online right now.
As always, we invite you. The easiest way to interact: ask a question or make a clarification. Tell us how smart we're not. Do that on the YouTube chat. That's where we're going to see it, and we'll likely follow along. So anyway, it was funny. She was so kind and polite and gentle about it, and then he busted her out. But yet all the kids apparently, or some of the kids at least, enjoy it. So hello to the entire Schultz family for joining us.
And if you're old enough, Schultz family, I'm 3 episodes into Stranger Things season 3, and so far so good. Just saying.
Okay.
If you're old enough to watch it, don't. Some of the younger ones a little gory.
All right. JT O'Brien says, don't use margarine. It doesn't work the same. Okay, given some tips. I think these are some cooking tips.
I think they're actually, someone asked about disc. What butter should I use on my discs?
Huh.
I'm not sure what
margarine, and I've never really thought about that. I wouldn't think you would want the one pro tip. Be very careful. I've made this mistake, and I know there's a few that have. At one time or another, be careful how many days ahead of time you are using something like the Armor All wipes to say wipe down the interior of your car. You know, the pleather or whatever you have in your car, or maybe you're fancy and you have real leather, and you're using those wipes and you're using them all over, or maybe the glass windows. And then next thing you know, you're touching or going anywhere near your disc or your disc golf bag. Some of that slick,
it's hard to get off of your disc.
So, yeah, you may be stuck with a very slick disc or number of discs for a long time. So make sure you rinse your hands very well when you're using any of those cleaning products before then you go and grab your bag and go out for a round, because sometimes that's impossible to get rid of. How many times should I wax my disc? Fisher by Night Ass. Funny enough, there was a disc wax that came out, I don't know how many years ago now.
I don't even know if I remember this.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. I remember which house I lived in, and therefore which office that it was stored in for a little while. But there was a company that briefly marketed some form of a disc wax, and of course promised
would be illegal. No, I mean you're adding a thickness,
a detectable thickness.
Sure, I mean, I
is that the same if you?
I would only assume so. Many years ago, got to be almost 10 by now. Home Depot released a waterproofing spray. It was basically a 2-layer spray, and it did add a noticeable thickness. It was like a grit almost. But what would happen is water would just bead off of things. It was meant for shoes and other products. So I thought it would be fun to try it out on a disc. I took a couple old putters and like an old driver. I sprayed it with the first one, let it dry. I sprayed it with the second one. I think I did like a third coat or something. And then you would pour water on it on a disc, and it would literally like bead up and just roll off, and your disc would be bone dry. Never had an issue, but it did add like a grit to the disc, like a noticeable, almost like a sand.
Yeah.
Just barely though. And I was throwing around with it during practice before an event, just messing around with it. And I think it was Greg Schwartz who came up to me. He's like, "Oh, check that." I said, "Yeah, check this out. It's kind of cool. I was just messing around with it." And he's like, "Yeah, you definitely can't use that during a round." I was like, "No, I didn't plan on it. Just," he's like, "Yep, it adds a noticeable thickness to your disc." And I thought, I mean, it's not much. I mean, clearly it's noticeable because you can feel the grit, the sand on it. But I mean, is that really much different than wearing a glove or anything like that? And I never did use it in an event. It didn't really affect the flight of the disc at all.
No.
So ultimately, like I would think, I don't know. I mean, you're modifying it with a wax. I don't know where that line is.
Well, I mean,
if you hand it to somebody, could they tell that something was on it?
Presumably not. I mean, I never applied it to anything. I remember getting a little case of it, but I never applied it. I would think just like if you sprayed your disc with off because you were trying to take off, we'll say Sharpie or something, like you usually can't notice that.
Correct.
So, yeah, I wouldn't think so. I would think that it was meant and that you could put it on, and if it just made it slicker or smoother, and it could have been an entirely just a marketing ploy to tell people that it then move through the air quicker. All right, so we'll move on to some other conversation. One that came in asking, and I think this is a great question by JT O'Brien as I scratch my nose. So seriously, hypothetical, someone invests $1 million in disc golf media for a year. What is the biggest change? More cards? ?
That's a tough question. I mean, because you ask us this versus you ask CCDG, and that's totally different because CCDG would probably tell you with $1 million, they could cover, we'll just say, every Pro Tour, every NT, probably a bunch of A tiers and majors, at least 4 cards deep.
Sure. I mean, so you're essentially saying more coverage.
More coverage. And you could have that next day. Is that more or less valuable than someone like us who could probably do live for most of those events, but only, we'll say, 2 cards deep for live?
And have some budget to invest in a few more bells and whistles.
Yep.
A number of legitimate hardware upgrades and just a few more bells and whistles for the production that we're doing it.
Yep. Yeah, one thing I didn't even tell Terry is today.
Oh no, shocked me.
Today I reached out to a graphic designer who I saw their media role or whatever, their resume out on social media, basically saying, "Hey, this is the type of stuff I do. It's more motion graphic, 3D, cinema 3D and Blender and things like that. A lot of what you would see on a Fox Sports or, the really cool player intros or bumpers or intros and just things like of that nature." And I reached out and just said, "Hey, I saw you posted something on here. I'm curious as to what your prices are and what we would be looking for." I mean, there's some really cool things that we could do, and I literally did it this morning, and I think they're overseas, so I don't know if they've even seen the email or gotten.
Are they in the disc golf industry?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. Like some of the role that he showed was, and I don't think he works for NBC Sports, but it was something that would look like it was on NBC. It had the NBC Sports logo on it, and there was a big hockey intro. It was more sports related than anything else, but it was all custom stuff. So I reached out to him, and I'm waiting to hear back from him, because I said, hey, we've got, what does this look like? How can we up our game in the live industry to make more assets and more things like that? Even if it was a template that we could use, which I would assume it would be. That's all. That's all stuff that I'm hoping to invest in and push more boundaries. But with $1 million, you could have some top of the line graphics, things. Me personally, I would divest that, I think, and work with UDisc to create a better interface for their system. So they have all the data. We just need a nice way to get it in. And right now, we have a very basic, simple web-based graphics. So they're not animated. They're really just they're very flat. I would work with them to create some APIs that we could then roll into some of these more fancy graphics packages and work with people that would be able to create this stuff. But I honestly, $1 million, I don't think changes our game. You get more coverage. You get a little bit. You would get better looking coverage.
Yeah, and JT follows it up. How far would it go? Would it be a noticeable difference in quality on live coverage? The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that it would be a noticeable difference in the quality of our live coverage. There's a lot of things, and Johnny just alluded to a few of them. I think there's a lot of big things, and there's a handful of small things, or either way, that could be implemented at that point with that kind of money, that we could make things look that much better overall, for sure. Yeah,
because even we limit the bandwidth that we use because, we pay for it. I think I figured the other day, one round of coverage for one camera,
$10,000
is about 1.2 gigabytes of data.
That's it?
For one camera for one round. So you're talking a 3-camera coverage for one round is, whatever, almost 4 to 5 gigabits of data. You multiply that times 3 rounds times two divisions,
2 a day, yeah,
and that adds up very, very quickly. I think that's what it was. I'd have to go back and look at my numbers, but either way, so we restrict the bandwidth that we push out at. We push out at what we consider a moderate level. With unlimited funds, we could go ahead and say
significantly increase that.
Yeah, we don't need to restrict that, because guess what? We've got 100 of these cards we can just keep plugging in and burning through data, and it wouldn't matter to us at the end of the month, whether our bill was $500 or $2,000. Cool. Let's just burn through this and make it a better looking broadcast.
Yeah, so that's another way in which the money could be
additional.
Immediately show an increase in the overall live quality. There's no doubt about that. And maybe it does or doesn't go without saying. Those are the types of issues that post-production doesn't even have to think about worrying about when it comes to the data and how rich the signal and the quality is of that actual video, because they're taking it all, they're putting it together, and then they're uploading it in just a totally different format in terms of what it costs them and us, or what it cost us for how to do it. So very, very different conversation. Now, someone else had, within this context, had said, well, put it towards the purses. I agree. Ultimately, when you say $1 million wouldn't hurt to put towards purses, but that would not, in my opinion, and I've said this about the FPO field for a number of years, and I'll continue to say it, that would not do anything for the true growth. It would be a very short-term spike. Assuming you couldn't maintain that, it would be a very short-term. I don't even want to call it a spike, though, because what more is going to grow? If there's an influx of an extra $1 million thrown into the purses next year, right? How does disc golf get bigger or benefit, other than making the people that currently make money will simply make more? I don't think disc golf really grows directly from that. Indirect ways maybe, but definitely not directly.
In 2018, the PDGA purses total combined, I believe, were like $4.5 million.
Okay. Seems a little low, but that maybe.
I believe that's what I saw in the
Sure.
PDGA demographics for sanctioned events or something.
Okay, so that goes to $5.5 million.
So you spread that out amongst all the majors and stuff. I don't think it makes a dent. I don't think it makes really any matter. I'm going to look up PDGA demographics.
Yeah, I don't think anything with our players would change. I don't think sponsor. Yeah, nothing. No, I just do not see anything directly growing by more people getting, or by the same amount of people getting a little bit more money, which is the same argument a Paul Macbeth, had many years ago, as he's, frequently found himself near the top or at the top of, hey, let's pay out maybe a little deeper, and maybe it shouldn't be as top heavy because that will encourage more people to get on the road or stay on the road. But to give Ricky an extra $3,000 every weekend when he wins, I just don't see how that's going to grow our sport.
Here's an interesting stat, which I guess I never really put together. 2008, there were 994 PDGA Tour events with 71,000 competitors and a $2 million purse. 2018, we have 4,031 events. So 4 times the number of events. 286,000 competitors. So 4 times the competitors. $4.8 million pro purse.
So 2.5 times.
So 2.5 times. So we've quadrupled the number of players and players and events, but only 2.5 times the number of the purse. And I don't know what the reason for that, but
I can tell you.
Okay, tell me.
I would firmly believe that you've quadrupled the amount of tournaments, you've quadrupled the amount of competitors playing, and only 2.5 times the entries. That tells me there is, I was going to figuratively
more
say
overhead.
No, figuratively, I was going to say there's a million more. No, there are a lot more C tiers. You're putting events that you may sell out a 90-person C tier, but only has $700 as a total purse.
Okay, that's a valid.
That would be because a C tier
a lot lower.
You can
going to the PDGA
exactly, and you can literally have 10 C tiers taking place in a really big state on one given weekend.
Listen, don't throw logic into this. I'm going to throw a bomb, and I want to just destroy the PDGA over this. No. Here's what I'll say about the $1 million. If you were to spread that out amongst our major events, we'll say 12 or 15 big events, I don't think it makes a dent. You take that $1 million and put it into one event,
different story.
It could be a different story, because then maybe you garner more media attention and say, oh, the Professional Disc Golf Association World Championships, where the winner takes home $500,000 and second place takes home $200,000 and third place takes. You could generate more media that way, and then you could in turn generate other sponsors coming in to be wanting to be a part of that, similar to the big maybe again, this is just possibility, similar to the big poker craze of when Moneymaker, the nobody, basically hit the world championship for this huge amount. It was like, I think $2 or $2.8 million at the time. I forget the exact number. And everyone was like, wow, I can do that. I'm a poker player. I play with my friends at home. Similar to disc golf. Like, I'm a disc golfer. I didn't realize there was that much money in this sport. If I really, if I get on my game and I work at it and this and that, there's a chance I could do something like that. Now, cards is way different than disc golf as far as athletic ability and amount of practice you need to put in. Cards is much more mathematics, and it's just a different diversion. But you could generate something like that, which could bring in a larger sponsor. I think you would, if you gave me the choice between spreading it out and one event, I pick one event. I think personally, if you're going to put it into the purse, that is the way to go. Try to make a big splash all at once and say, hey, here we are, come take a look, as opposed to spreading it out and saying, oh, cool, Paul Macbeth for Worlds won $15,000 or $18,000 or $20,000, and he also won $15,000 at USDGC or $20,000, and he also won $20,000 at another major, or and I think that would look, I think
make a bigger splash.
It makes a bigger splash. So again, the problem is now you look at other people and they're like, oh, well, cool, this $1 million came in and it all went to like these 12 people or, the top of the MPO and FPO field, as opposed to spreading it out where we could have done it. So the player might have a different viewpoint versus someone like me that's maybe trying to see what we can do. We're going to try to throw a giant rock into this little pond as opposed to a bunch of medium-sized rocks. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I don't know if it really would do anything or if people would still kind of just ignore us as they do now.
Well, I someone on the board, I believe it was Makers Telemarket, just said, I think he worded it, Bubba on the couch doesn't want, I don't know if he's talking about Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson might take exception to this, but Bubba on the couch doesn't want to watch us. Bubba on the couch does not watch or want to watch Frolf, period.
I disagree.
See, I hate to say it, but I almost agree.
If the stakes are higher, they watch.
Sure, but I think he's just meaning in general right now. Like,
oh, you're right. Now,
there's not a huge viewer base other than our diehard golfers.
Because they're so, to me.
And it's like a lot of other niche sports.
Yeah, and because the stakes are so low. Because guess what? Most people aren't going to care if someone is going to win, if someone's going to win $3,000 this week versus $1,500. That's not life-changing money. That's not something you can.
Correct.
It's harder to get behind and root for something. You put life-changing money on the line, and it's just like any game show. Why does any person watch a game show? Like there's some game show with Dax Shepard that just premiered a couple weeks ago or something. There's a giant wheel behind him, and it's getting, I think, okay ratings, but why do people watch that? Because there's drama. It's life-changing money. You learn, the players, like this could set him for life. And that's where the drama, I think, of a lot of this stuff comes in. You would be turning our biggest event into a kind of game show. And that's where I think you would get the other people that are caring.
But regardless,
right now, no, nobody cares about what we're doing.
Well, and it's not even, I don't even think it's just the money, because if you told me, or when you do tell me that the Tetris Championships is taking place and it's giving away $100,000 to the winner or $1 million to the winner, I may tune in and watch it, and I even enjoy Tetris. I may watch part of it one year, but I won't be seeking it out the next year. I'll wait till it comes across my desk or my email or social media the next year. When you're a niche sport, I just don't feel like other people are getting interested in you and then staying interested in you for long periods of time.
That could be. But
just like the poker craze all those years ago. People got really interested, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. They were really interested for a little while, and then it kind of faded away. And then every year around the World Series of Poker, then maybe your fringe people will then find interest in it again because it's all over Facebook, but they're not staying in tune with it all the time unless you're already a diehard poker fan.
You're right. Right now, you're right. The World Series of Poker is the only thing. The final table is really the only thing most casual people watch. No, you're going to get your hardcore people that will go out and watch all of the the leading up to it and the events that qualify you into it and this and that. But ultimately, the only thing that really gets prime time these days anymore is that final table, because people want to see who's going to take home the $8 million or 12 or 6 or whatever the pot is these days. Shout out to Chris Crittermeyer, who I think cashed at the World Series of Poker this year. I didn't see for how much.
$15,000.
Really?
I looked him up.
Oh, cool. Congratulations, Chris.
He took like 1,506th place, 1,506th place or something like that, or 1,063rd place, whatever it was, but cashed out at $15,000.
Well done.
Nice work. So that's an actual. Let us know in the. Yeah, I'd love to know in our comments if there's others that we know of that are for sure there. I saw other people attended. I don't know if anyone else did well. As Johnny's speaking of, that's Chris Meyer in Minnesota, who we used to play against quite often. Right around that same age. I know he was there and then, like you just mentioned, cashed out and got into the cash, so to speak. I'd like to know if there were any others that I didn't see in our disc golf community.
But I mean, if you were to say that there's every year there's $1 million in the World Championship, even if every other event stayed the same, everyone gets $3,000. I still think you generate interest. I still think that primes the pump, so to speak, for other things. You're probably not going to get, you'll pick up some people that will kind of, I follow this sport. That's cool. They're fighting towards this, this big grand finale and this and that. But going back to the primary thing, the $1 million, one event. I mean, you could, that is, I feel, the only way to generate interest.
I think it would make a bigger splash. I agree.
As we are right now,
if we're putting it into, and we kind of imagine that we got off topic. If you're talking about putting it into disc golf media, there's one set of answers. If you're talking about just inserting that money into disc golf in a more generic sense or into the competitive side, then that's a whole nother set of answers. So
Makers Telemark says gambling would totally kickstart Frolf. JVD, get Skip Ace into partnership with casinos. Profit.
There is a gentleman who very, very passionately approached me a few years ago. Conveniently, I was at the Gentlemen's Club event at the time in Vegas, and he is familiar with all of that lingo. He was showing me his handwritten notes about odds of this player versus that player. Very, very well thought out and passionate about it. And I nodded, said that'd be great. I think he was actively trying to insert that into the Vegas world. All I can say is good luck. I think it would, I don't know, I guess it would definitely add some legitimacy, but it would be very interesting to see. Would I be allowed to? I'd probably.
Yes, and players would be too, as long as you didn't probably bet on events that you participated in.
Okay. Events I cover and yell at people while they're out there playing. Yes. I could. Okay. Well, that would pique my interest even more. But that's a whole different world that I am, of course, not part of or fully removed from. And if it ever happened, it would be interesting seeing on the Vegas lines.
And I'll say about Skip Ace, it's a very sketchy situation right now as far as gambling. Wisconsin, particularly, still has specific laws against even like your fantasy football or your DraftKings or your FanDuel or whatever you want to do. So I think legally I am still bound by the laws of Wisconsin, even if it is available in New Jersey or some of the other states. And on top of that, the PDGA also currently has rules that say if you want to go in and use their data, it cannot be done for things of gambling and stuff like that. And I use some of the PDGA stuff. So right now there is still that. Now that could change in the future, and I would be happy, very happy to look into something along those lines. But right now it's still, I think we're a few years away from that.
Yeah, it would.
I really would love to have something like a FanDuel or a DraftKings where you can just go in. And that's hopefully something that we can look at. It wanted to be for this year, but that didn't really pan out. Where you log in and you're like, oh, look, here's 30 people that want to play a match this week. I'll click in there. We each make our picks, and we move on. And then
why aren't you set up like FanDuel yet then? Come on.
Because it's not very easy to do on a very cheap budget that I am doing this on.
All right. Alan specifically asked, would having an Augusta quality course with media coverage be the way to use this money? That would kind of meshing both of our answers together. Yeah. I mean, the way that Augusta is set up, Augusta is really nothing more. I don't want to say nothing. Augusta is set up as completely a media venue that happens to have golf on top of it on this gorgeous course. So you're talking about hundreds of wires are run underneath that course, hundreds or thousands of wires, millions and millions of dollars of cables are run to all these various places around Augusta. To have something like that, and then to have a course that would be gallery friendly, that would be media friendly, and we can, without beating that horse to death, that's one of our biggest challenges in disc golf. We talk about having stuff that's gallery friendly because we want big crowds out there and we want media out there and we want to be able to cover these guys throwing big shots and wowing everyone at home and in person. But then we say, well, that's boring golf. We want to see them carve shots and shape lines through wooded fairways, which then is the exact opposite of everything else that we just said we did want. It's a really, really tough balance. And so whether you're from a media perspective or a player perspective or just a sheer spectator, you have a different angle on all of those. And I think we're going to have to do our best to try and find places that serve, somehow kind of mix the 2 or 3 of those perspectives together. And then you have to be concerned, do you care about having live on top of it or not? Live versus even just post. I mean, you look at a Beaver State Fling and you think, okay, there's shots that have to be shaped and carved. There's long shots to air it out a little bit out there. It's majestic. The views are great. The gallery is relatively manageable out there, with where they have to go. But then there's no live. And so those are all things that I guess get talked about.
So I just reached out to an actual Vegas odds maker who I know through...
Is his name Jimmy?
It's not. I'm not going to share what his name is. Who I know through another community, who one of the other podcasts I listen to, they do like a monthly, it's a monthly, it's not like a quiz show, but like a contest between the 2 hosts, and he's a avid viewer of that particular podcast. So he will actually, I think jokingly, but he puts up Vegas odds for it actually in the casino, like just puts it up there, takes a picture of it, and I think takes it down off their big board. But he is an actual Vegas odds maker, and I just reached out to him and said, not that I expect it, but just curious, what would it take to get our sport into casinos? I would love to know like the process or how it would work. So I'll let you know if I hear back from him. I think I've only spoken indirectly with this gentleman one time, so I don't even know if he's going to respond to me, but he is an actual Vegas odds maker at one of the major hotels out there, or the major gambling areas. I don't know. So we'll see.
Okay. Big Putt Bill is out there coming in from, I don't know if you're in Florida or California these days, but thanks for joining us. One of our most gracious smashies out there. Big Putt Bill had the conversation whether or not his wife spends more money on shoes or if he does supporting us. And we figure, well, it's all a wash either way. Maybe she should get her great-looking shoes and then watch the podcast with you. And then I think everybody wins at that point, Bill. Carver, I'll skip off for that. Okay, Brutal Brutus says, Zach Arlinghouse for fan vote at Idlewild, please. Yeah, Zach, I want to say finished in the middle of the pack, and I'm quite last year at Idlewild. I believe he has turned down cash a number of times. And I think it would be a great vote to see Zach performing on a feature card at the Idlewild. I'm not sure when the Disc Golf Pro Tour will be announcing or conducting that voting in that surveys, the voting for those. But hopefully when they do, Zach will be one of the potentials that is eligible to be in on a feature card during the opening day. Brutal and others are saying that they're watching the final table of the World Series of Poker as we speak. Now, I will ask you, because I've only seen the headline, there was a little hubbub, and maybe some of our viewers can talk about it and that know more. There was a hubbub about something to do with a chip counting by a dealer or a mistake by a dealer. Did you see any of that?
Nope.
Again, I did not click on a single thing. The only thing that I gathered from a headline was something to do with it. What I gathered is that maybe one of the dealers at maybe the final table miscounted some chips. I don't know if there was a bet and then somebody had to match it or whatever, but it sounds like there was some discrepancy. And so headlines were a day or so ago, and I feel like they've continued, and I'm sure someone will graciously fill us in as to what it is. But thank you, Big Putt Bill, for and now stepping up and being a super chatter here.
I'm going to take your $9.99, go to Vegas, and put it all on one player.
That sounds like a good idea. Wesley says, I beat a World Poker Tour champ in his own house. 2-table winner, take all, $300 buy-in, and he won. Okay, nice work out there. Do you know of anyone? You don't know of any of the details of where the World Series is at and all that stuff?
Not a clue. I have not paid any attention other than about Chris Meyer.
Okay. Luke Butch has some insight as he has officially announced that he's retired from the professional poker tours that are out there. Did I put in a plug for Thailand? You guys should all go. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it already.
Hot thing I see on social media right now is the Face app.
Yep. Everyone
making themselves turn old for the most part. I think
Sure.
I've seen a couple gender swaps, but ultimately it seems to be more of an age thing. And
is that somebody should fill us in? I've of course seen the photos as well. If that's a separate downloadable app, is that a Facebook thing?
Don't believe it's a Facebook thing. I think it's a separate downloadable thing. And here's what I'll say. Just like a lot of other things, just be careful. I mean, you're basically
what's in that user agreement?
You're giving them probably access to your picture or whatever. They're probably training facial recognition apps with it in the future. And does it hurt you? Probably not.
Deep state stuff,
but
Johnny? Are you?
No, I'm not going to go all crazy at that. But
Sure.
It's really interesting what these companies are probably doing with all this data to make sure
they're not doing it just to put out a funny photo for you.
God, no.
There is a
deeper. They're gathering data. I guarantee it.
Now, how harmful, spiteful, malicious intent their intent may or may not be in the long run, who knows? But they are not doing it just like, oh, this will be fun and the whole world will love this. There is definitely some form of deeper data to it, and this could be said of any app at any point. Of course, be careful, as Johnny's saying, when you're clicking yes to those user agreements. Maybe sometimes just peruse it, when it says things like, oh, this particular add-on or this app, attached to your Facebook also gives us right to record anything you say, anything you do, any email you ever send, any photo you ever
got. Access to all your friend groups and lists.
Yeah, there's some of them can be quite dicey, and I know, and I wouldn't consider myself like a fraudulent freak or a paranoia in any way.
No, I use Facebook, I use Google, I use all that stuff. I'm not that concerned. I'm just letting people know that,
there's a motive somewhere.
Definitely a motive.
One way or another. Carver John said, I recently played with a severely drunk Chris Moneymaker. Not sure why he was playing my low stakes. He was doing an event at the casino. Huh, well, good to know.
Well, I mean, that money probably isn't going as far as it used to.
Yeah, or you got to wonder if you hustle around various circuits.
Well, and I thought the same thing when I was at, many, many years ago when I was at the casino, and Serge Ibaka sat down next to me, the NBA player, and we're playing like a 1-2, I think maybe it was even limit. I think it was 1-2 limit table. I'm thinking like, what are you doing sitting down next to me at the 1-2 table? You make millions of dollars a year. And he was just there. He bet on everything. And he lost a lot, and then
just there for the thrill.
And then just suddenly went on this heater where he won a crap ton, and he went kind of up and down. And I just sat there and played my hands, and it was just fun. It was fun watching him.
Weren't you at the table with Westbrook at one point?
No, Westbrook was on that same team, but he sat at a different table.
Ah.
I don't recall the table he was at, but and then that was, I believe, when I think it was Ibaka, Westbrook, and
Jordan?
No, the guy who just
Pippen.
went to not the Jets, God.
BJ Armstrong.
The Brooklyn. He was not sitting at a table, but he was at the casino. He came into the poker room, and someone on the board
Patrick Ewing
will rattle it off. It's nobody from the 80s, Terry. I guarantee it. The guy who just blew out his Achilles. Anyway, he was there as well. But yeah, Westbrook was at
Larry
one
Bird?
table, and Ibaka was at my table for some reason. I was really upset and frustrated. I'm like, you're just betting on everything because you have millions of dollars, you jerk.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was kind of like, whatever. It's fun to say it's right next to me.
I do recall you telling that story of some NBA players, one of which only one name I recognized. And in other news that was just kind of a side note to me, which was really interesting, and you'll see some of it in the Silver Cup footage. The longest finals in Wimbledon men's history, at least. I think I've phrased that correctly. Went down on Sunday, and at one point it seemed as if Kale LaVisca was not interested in disc golf and was very much wrapped up in that final matchup that took place. Apparently, he's a huge Federer fan. Is that the guy's name? We'll go with that.
Roger Federer.
Yeah. He's a big fan. I got a funny little interaction with him during that will be included in the footage as well. But that took place for, I guess, a time and date stamp here as well. Let's see if anything else is on the board. If JVD ever went to Thailand, would he get a tan?
Nope, not happening. It doesn't happen. Like, I could be out in the sun. It takes me 3 or 4 good days in the sun to even just get a slight shade darker, because I basically turn red. I burn. If it's bad enough, I'll peel, and then it goes away, and I'm just as pasty white as I've always been. So I tend to avoid most direct sunlight without any sort of sunscreen or sun protection or a big hat, whatever it is. And
I'll say this, one side note to that is, Thailand is, of course, very warm and sunny when we were there. At least the course we're on, I didn't feel like sun was the major issue. The only downside, in my opinion, in being there, and this comes from a guy in the Midwest, and some parts of the country where you're coming from, it may not bother you. It was just very humid. So that was the one challenge. As the old saying goes, it wasn't the heat, it was the humidity. It was just very, very humid while we were there. Sunny, beautiful, and warm out, but humidity was the part that you remember the most. And maybe if you're from certain parts of the country, you'll be like, this is no big deal. Or maybe if you're a lot thinner than I am, you won't think it's a big deal. But humidity was definitely a sticking point while you were there. So this weekend, of course, European Open. Next weekend, Idlewild. Rocky Mountain for me comes after that.
And Worlds.
Yeah, and then Worlds. I mean, you want to say things are slowing down, but they're really not. I know they're not for me. But lots of good events coming up. And then right after Worlds, I think you have Delaware. You move over to Maple Hill. You have, eventually you have Nantucket, Vermont, U.S. Women's. Like almost every single weekend, I feel like it just keeps going and going. Like there's a good, solid event taking place for our competitors to be at. And we'll see who starts to take any breaks, who starts to peel back, or like Seppo. I mean, I'd have to say that's some of the biggest news that we've seen this week is that Seppo saying that he's just not going to participate.
It's a
kind
really
of a shocker.
Strange decision, because if I'm Seppo, I just maybe assume, well, even if I play poorly, I'm probably shooting 1,000 rated golf, probably take a mid to bottom cash. Unless there's something physically wrong with him. If it's just a glitch in the matrix or something he needs to work through, it's odd to me to see him pull out of that. But maybe there's something more, we don't know it. Maybe there's not. Maybe it literally is just my timing is off, or I've got the yips, or something that needs to happen. I don't know, but it is kind of a big deal, especially being the European Open.
Well, and I keep thinking ahead to the Worlds is when we're going to see some of our top U.S. women challenged more than ever when we get over to the World Championships. Or are they not even coming? I was just thinking about the European Open where it's going to be an all-out battle.
In what division?
The FPO.
Yeah,
all
the FPO players from Europe are basically coming over. All the major ones that we are excited to see compete.
Okay. All right. Brutal. This is worth clarifying. Said, I just realized how far I've lagged behind. The dealer miscounted by 5 million. She said 17 million instead of 22. It was around 60 million in the guy's stack. Okay. So that was in reference to the dealer miscount, which I could see could have a legitimate. Then he said he pushed out the 17 million to call, and then one of the other players caught the mistake about 3 seconds after he pushed. So I'm not sure how that then ultimately affected, any various outcomes. But I know it is definitely, it's almost too bad. I'll say for
is that the equivalent of a missing railroad tie?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, is that the equivalent, or I was gonna say, yeah, someone getting hit with a disc, a spectator getting hit. You have this great event going on, all these things happening, and then all of a sudden a spectator gets hit with a disc that may or may not have come back in bounds. And so I don't know how this ultimately impacted the outcome of that day, of that person or whatever. But that immediately, my analogy is thinking, yeah, a spectator gets hit, and did it taint, the potential outcome?
John Carver says, no, it's not quite that bad. And they're meh, chump change. It's all fake money anyway.
Exactly. I mean,
it's not really
at
22
one point,
million.
yeah, they're going to be playing for 99 million or 500 million is going to be their chip count. And I've always said, I get it. I feel like that's a marketing perspective of saying, oh, well, player, the leaders at 48 million. And
it's not, I mean, because you're probably taking the accumulative of what was in the pot from all the players. So the more players that play, you're always going to pretend start out with 1,500 in cash.
Sure.
It's just whether you have 12 players playing or 20,000 players playing. So that's where those numbers, could you go to the final table and have everyone cut down by a third? You could, but I don't know the reasoning or why. I think that's how it works. I could be totally off and wrong.
Just like when I released my first driver, it's going to be a speed 72.
That is a little different.
All right. Speaking of releasing stuff, I did run into Bamba Rico over at Legacy Disc. His son Cam was competing at the Junior Worlds. It was great. He said that his first time coming from the West Coast out to a Junior Worlds in this capacity for his son, and they had a heck of a good time. He also, it just reminds me so much of the family and the reality of where we're at in disc golf, that when I spoke to him on the final night, I'm speaking of Bamba Rico, he said, man, just like DD is doing things right here. And of course, they are a competitor in the disc golf industry, but he said he is so impressed with what DD was doing there, and his hats off to them, and nothing but accolades for how well things are going. And I think he became a fan of Emporia and a fan of what they have going on over there. So awesome to see Bamba and crew out at the event.
Is that a newer disc?
So no, what I've got here, this is a Legacy disc. This is in fact a Patriot, and it is a grinder. And that's their form of like an X out or a misprint or a secondary, slight mistake. They're grinders, as in they grind them up and then recycle them. So like we've seen some of the Eco or X outs or whatever. That's what they've always done. All too often.
175.
And I'll say this of a lot of our manufacturers. I love that they have the standards they do. Sometimes it's nearly impossible to find out like what was actually wrong with it. Was it a cosmetic flaw? Was it a stamp flaw? Something like that. I didn't look at this one too closely yet, but this looks like we got some beautiful sparkles in it, and it's, as Johnny said, 175 grams, and we're gonna give this away tonight to one of our
Patreon supporters. If you'd like to be involved in the Patreon giveaway, you can be automatically entered by going to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. And for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to that. For more, you get more. For $3 a month, you get our yearly disc. For $10 a month, you get the quarterly shirt, which we just sent out. Ultimately, go ahead and be a Patreon supporter if you would like. We value all of you a lot. And if you don't want to be a Patreon supporter, you can go to there's some website on SmashBoxxTV/something or other. We announced it a few weeks ago. You have to go back and find that because I honestly don't remember what it is now. And you can sign up there. We did have 3 people sign up there for this particular week. I see Alex Heimberg, Mike Gervaisi, and Rebecca Gervaisi. See what you did there to the Gervaisis. And we have, so ultimately we have 206 people registered for this particular giveaway. Terry, is there a specific number you would like to give?
Yes, it was my second visit to the Junior Worlds held in Emporia out of the 3 years that we know for sure they're hosting it. So I say you pick the second number.
The second number. We generate the first number, and it's number 65. These are sorted by alphabetical first name. we generate the second number, and it is 109. 109. Oh, that is the other page. Let's go here. We're not giving away anyone's personal information. 109 is Luis Garcia. So, Luis Garcia, congratulations. You will be getting that in the mail in the next couple weeks.
All right, you got it. I did get a few discs sent out today. There's a few more that are going out tomorrow. Now that I am actually home for a few days, I just might get a little bit caught up. Some people are reaching out, buying the new Discraft Onyx from me, or the new Proto Run renamed Zeus. I do have some of those available if you're interested in supporting me and my efforts. That's one way you could go about it. Or if you need any other discs or equipment, you could also reach out to me. But I know those are hot releases that just came out as well, and I do have those available. So I will get this shipped out. I will send we'll send a message over to Lewis and hopefully confirm some shipping address and information. Man, it's almost time's up on Amazon Prime Day again, days.
I didn't order anything.
Neither did I.
It's really funny. I sit in this it's an open area with about 6 different cubicles, and my back is to a gentleman, and he likes to talk, and I'm trying to get something done, and he's like, "Hey, John." Yeah? Amazon Prime? Like, yeah? You ordering anything on Prime Day? Like, no, probably not. Okay. Hey, John. Yeah? Camping. You go camping? They got some great camping gear. Like, he's like, this really 50% off camping gear. I'm like, no, I do a little bit here and there with my son, but mostly Boy Scout stuff. Okay. Hey, John. Jesus, seriously? I'm thinking and he was telling me electronics, and I'm just like, all right, cool, and I did look at some of the electronics. There was a 55-inch TV, flat screen OLED that was, looked really nice. I think it was like $600 or something. I don't remember what exactly it was, but all I kept thinking was thankfully, I have no use for it. I've got a 42-inch TV upstairs that's almost 9 or 10 years old. That's like 9 years old. And I wish it would die, but it doesn't. And I've got our small TV down here, which is like a 32-inch or 27. I don't exactly know what that size is, that we put the guests on behind the camera so you guys can't see it. And it works fine for its job, and we don't have any other TVs in the house, living room and down here. And as much as I would love a bigger TV, it just isn't. It's not needed right now.
I mean, they really manufacture an implied or an inherent demand for items, but I did not fall victim to it myself. I didn't even bother. There's nothing that I feel like I really needed.
For 3 minutes.
Yeah, so I didn't bother.
It's also a little bit discouraging when, just last week, you had to, or actually at the beginning of this week, no, last week, I had to spend $3,200 on a new air conditioning system.
Oh, so when I was complaining about how hot it was down here, that wasn't crazy?
No, it wasn't crazy. You could still complain about it. It didn't bother me. Just like I told my wife, I'm like, it's warm. It doesn't really bother me. But yes, the air conditioning, basically the unit that runs the actual, almost like the radiator portion of the air conditioner had sprung a leak, and it was unfortunately a very old system, about 15 years old. And they said we could probably find a replacement part for it, probably $1,500 to $1,700. If you're lucky, you find one cheaper, but it's almost 20 years old. It's like old R22 Freon, which they don't use anymore. So it's probably in your best interest to just replace the whole unit. Then you get a new blower outside. And so we ended up having to do that. And they were it was very nice. And
they were excited to
they were very excited to sell me
a whole new system.
A whole new system.
Wow, that's awfully generous of them.
And it was not an expense that I was really looking forward to spending. I knew it was going to happen at some point, because we've been in this house for almost 15 years, and we haven't replaced a furnace or an air conditioner. So, and the guy even told me, he's like, yeah, your furnace too. And I said, seriously, don't you say a thing. Like that furnace, I want it to last another 5 years.
Yeah.
Don't you say a thing. He's like, it's on its last leg. I'm like, God, can't say that.
He'll give you a discount when he comes back and does that.
No, Robert, there's not still snow on the ground. We're going to be hitting almost 100 degrees this week. This is our summer right here this week.
Yeah, and I will admit, going back to that briefly, apparently I missed the ridiculous hot day down there at the Junior Worlds last week, and I'm okay with it. I think it was Tuesday. It was warm here, and it was warm throughout the rest of the week. I arrived Wednesday afternoon, and it was warm, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday were all, again, warm, but I guess I missed the absolute torturous day that I think came through on Monday or Tuesday there, so I'm okay with that. I will make a quick plug, and if you are ever interested in this, I wasn't going to go here, because I just thought of it. I, again, use Turo, Turo. Dare I say it's the Airbnb for cars, but you literally, I've said literally too many times tonight, sorry. You rent a car from a specific person. They may be really serious and own 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 cars, or it may be their spare car. Whatever the case might be, you rent a car from a specific person. In this case, this gentleman picks me up at the airport. I then drive him to his house where I drop him off, which is on my way to Emporia. I drop him off, and then I use his car for the 3, 4, 5 days. And then whether I need to go to the airport or drop it back off at his house or whatever the case might be, you work all of those things out. It's an app. It's just great because not only did I save money, but you know exactly what car you're getting. And I rent a lot of cars. So, they tell you a mid-size or a full-size or whatever the case might be. You get there and you may or may not have a choice of 1 to 10 different cars. Here you go out, you search, you put in price points, and you can rent a very specific car. So it was actually cheaper for me to rent this gentleman's, I feel like, decked out Lexus for 4 days than it would be to rent
how you roll.
Economy car from anywhere at the airport. I'll admit it was nice riding in a car. I'm not used to this. Riding in a car that blows cold air on you from through the seats, the leather seats. It was very, very comfortable. For the week. So anyway, that's the service, Turo. Turo, if you're interested and you want a referral code, I can give you one. I think I get $20 for it. I don't care. But that's something that I've now used 3 times, twice from the same gentleman, and it's done me well. So for what that's worth to you guys. Elizabeth earlier was asking something about women's match play. I think she said there's maybe some team match play. Wanted to know if Robert McCall was going to be caddying out there. I think
for Shea,
and I think there were some other competitors. So best of luck. Man, I don't know who to root for. We've got Smashies, we've got Nons. Best of luck out there.
Yeah. I just have to assume Shea's a Smashie as well.
Yeah.
Whether she likes it or not, Robert tunes in, and
Robert's actively on the board every minute.
He just cranks it up and like, Shea, they're talking about me on the internet.
Robert says right now that Shea and Jackie are playing together, so that is pretty awesome to see. I'll be excited to hear some of the results, and I'm also going to be excited to hear. I know there's been more and more conversation as the year is going to come to a close. We know when the I apologize. We know when the Next Gen Tour is finishing up in November, and that's going to be in Austin, a new location this year. I think we're going to hear more about the Disc Golf Pro Tour and some of the details as that hopefully is getting secured. When I was on the website and we were informed, it was kind of a to be determined. And I think now that we've moved in here to mid-July, I would anticipate some final plans and details being shared with the world as to what we're going to see on the Pro Tour finale side as well. It's been a pretty crazy event the last few years.
Yeah, and when that happens, you can expect to hear it on SmashBoxxTV first.
Yeah, we'll tell everybody. All right, we're going to call it. It's been a great night. I think we've covered everything we need to. It's been all right.
After Doug left, it really went downhill.
Well, I know, because I'm stuck with you.
I'm stuck with you.
We do appreciate you guys tuning in, and even great to see the hair. Robert McCall out on the board. after all the great work you did this week. But thank you guys. Thanks for the insights as to what was going on in the poker world. I'm glad we got to finally cover that. Also give you the update on what happened in the Wimbledon men's finals, because that's what our Disc Golf podcast is all about.
We're here for it all.
It's all for Bernadette. All right, for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf guy, and all of our Smashies out there, thank you for supporting us. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you next week on Tuesday night for 257. You step inside the Smash Box.